I'm happy if it stays like this.
Yeah. Francisco said, hi and Happy New Year. He's still with us in here not. Good morning, Francisco, if you're still out there. Good to see you. Oh, Echo. Echo's gone. Oh, so how's your day starting off this morning?
Cold and snowy.
Cold and snowy.
Cold and snowy.
Oh man, it's here. It's rough back here too. It's probably almost 60 and foggy. It ain't right.
Almost 60.
Yeah. In fact, it may be over 60. I didn't. Well, that is my phone. Let's see what the Weather Channel says it is. Oh, I got to turn something off. I was watching something else earlier. Didn't realize I still had him on. Had him in my pocket. Weather Channel says it's 59. Not the Weather Channel, excuse me. National Weather Service says it's 59 and should reach 69 today before the day's over.
Good morning, Chuck.
So, not quite the same weather as you've got.
No, we're 24 right now and snow, but not.
Morning, Chuck. Welcome in, sir.
Not snow like Chuck and Tina have.
Well, Tina was. Good morning, Tina. Speaking of you, her ears must have been burning. Last time I saw her last night in another chat, and I asked her about that, and she said, "Oh, they only had about 6 inches then." But I know Ryan Hall was saying that it was coming down 2 inches an hour or more. You know, in New York and lots of New York, New England. I think some places got hammered. The bad part was they were getting ice underneath the snow. So Tina and Chuck, did you get ice under your first and then get snow? I hate when it does that. Nashville was bad for that.
Yeah, there's nothing like that crusted. Arkansas was bad for that too, especially in the mountains.
Because we live in that, that belt of are we northern or are we southern? Are we going to be cold and snowy? Are we going to be warm and balmy? And the weather is just as confused as everybody else. Everybody in your family healthy?
Let me think about this. I think so. I think we're finally all kind of squared away.
Brenda's still not back on her feet. Plump. I mean, better, but not. I can't beat her and get a lot of work out of her right now. I'm having to get somebody. I'm having to do it myself. She's been sick for almost a week.
Really?
Well, actually, a week today. Not horribly sick, but just can't keep anything on her stomach, and so I guess.
Well, that's been going around out here. Stomach bug, some kind of stomach bug,
maybe I got it. Maybe she picked it up last week talking to you.
I would rather they just beat me.
Tina says there are only 23 and we got dumped on yesterday. Yeah, that's when I was watching Ryan Hall. I think we ended up with almost a foot. No ice though, so we're fine. Chuck says, and Chuck confirms they did not get any ice problems. That's good because, hey, we already said it though. There's Francisco still here. Ryan Hall was showing a lot of live camera feeds from. I was trying to think where was he in Albany? No, he wasn't in Albany, but they were showing pictures. I think Albany and some other areas further south. And people were driving too fast and doing crazy things they shouldn't have been doing, and of course part of I don't know, people leaving New York City. I'm not sure where it was crowded. Looked pretty rough. I'm glad it wasn't doing that here. I wish it would snow, honestly, but I'm glad it wasn't doing that. I wouldn't mind a few inches to a foot of snow. I wouldn't probably mind that a bit. And I can say that without retribution because I don't think anybody local's listening to the show. They may not. I'm sure the school system and probably the water department and the highway, they're probably none of them would agree with that, I think. Tina says their snow was big and fluffy.
And they got a foot of it.
So, Tina, when you say big and fluffy, does it make a snowball or is it too fine? And well, that's what I call fluffy, is when it's fine and dry and won't stick together. Or is it that real heavy kind of fluffy where it wads up and makes you could make a teddy bear out of it, so to speak. Good morning, Jason Thibodeau. Do I pronounce your name incorrectly?
Well, you did the first time, but you didn't the second.
What did I say the first time?
Trib.
I put an R in it, don't I?
Yeah.
I do. I don't know why I keep doing that either. I mean, obviously, I can see there's no R there.
Hopefully but he's like enjoying sunshine and warm.
Where did you see that at?
I said hopefully.
Oh, hopefully. My daughter's in Nolens, so I don't know when they're coming back. I'm pretty sure she didn't mention
Jason's in Florida, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. But I think of the name, I think of Louisiana. But
I'd be down on the water catching redfish.
Yeah, I think it's warmed back up down there. They had kind of a cold snap last week or week before, and it was chilly for Florida again. I'll say that. So, now Jason's in South Louisiana. I thought so.
Well, then I'd be on the coast there catching redfish.
Yes, it will make a snowball. What I was referring to is that it fell in big puff balls. Okay, gotcha. Most of the time when we get snow here, it's that way. It's pretty much the same.
We had great big flakes the other morning, and then when we get those big flakes, we don't get much snow out of the deal. The big, pretty, slow falling flakes. Out here they say when the snow is like meal, it's going to snow a great deal.
Well, makes sense.
It's true. We get that heavy blowing, like hard, coming down hard. That's when we really get pounded. But we've got, I don't know, we might have a couple inches maybe this morning, brand new snow.
Back when I was able to do such things, and did such things, which was still when I lived in Nashville. I like to go skiing some. A couple of guys I worked with were from the northern tier of states, and one of the guys there actually had worked out west at a ski resort for a long time. He'd skied all his life or been on skis. Of course, and he was from Minnesota, so the hills there are a little smaller. But he lived around Mount Hood for a long time, and he did taught skiing a little bit, I guess, on the Bunny Hill and just things like that. But he took me out and got me skiing, and we'd go. Seemed like we used to be able to go fairly often around here, but it's not like that anymore. But anyway, the one thing I never got to do was and I wanted to, was go out west and ski somewhere one time where it was big and fluffy and powdery. I wanted to see what that powder skiing was all about that everybody raved about. But never got to do that.
My wife was a big skier. The only skiing I ever did was cross country stuff
Yeah.
in the woods, and I did a lot more snowshoeing than skiing. But
I never did need snowshoes. I'd like to give that a try too, or would have. My knees might not like it now, but yep, if it's BBs, we get it. Slow that down where I can get it there. If it's BBs, we get it for a long time, but it doesn't mount to much except in dunes on the fields. It sure hurts when it hits your face, though. Yeah, that stuff kind of stings. Good morning, Mike. Maple Bacon is with us.
Holy buckets!
Now our day is made whole.
I bet they're cold.
I bet they are too. What's the temperature at your house, Mike? What's it be, 95 or something?
Yeah, below.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I think he stepped out, Mike. Well, I'll put this up there so he can see it when he comes back. So, Nico the Greco, welcome in, sir. Excuse me. Mike, clarify. When you say it's not too cold, what does that mean exactly? As Mark goes out and puts on his Filson vest.
Well, I took off my hoodie. The heater's finally catching up.
Maple Bacon says it's -8 right now, which is 17, our temperature. Yep, American, 17 degrees American. That's still a little bit colder than it is here, Mike. It's 58 or not here. I'm almost afraid to say that. In this crowd, most of this crowd, some of this crowd's warmer though. Just out of curiosity, Jason, you're the furthest south so far. I think. I'm not sure where Nico lives, but what's the temperature in your neck of the woods? You see what Mike said the temperature was, though? It was -8. -8.
Well, -8.
-7.
The big C.
It's 17 American. Tina says that's not too cold. We had that yesterday, even though it was snowing like crazy. Now, when it snows here, if it even does when it's 17 degrees, it's usually pretty light and doesn't amount to much here.
Nico's in the desert. That's warm. I'm in the desert too, but it doesn't hardly get to that in the summer here.
You're in the desert, but you're in the desert.
We only get 7 to 9 inches of precip annually, typically, but sometimes it can be 10 feet deep and be not much moisture in it.
True. Your desert 7.
Oh man, Jason's right there with all the redfish, and it's 72 degrees.
Well, it's time to go fishing.
It's It's like Hallmark movie snow up in Canada, right, or up where Mike's at right now.
There's no wind,
That's
Diane.
what Diane says.
Hallmark movie. I told you wrong. Yes, not yesterday, day before yesterday. By the way, you asked me where Brian and Jen were. They're in. They are in the middle of New Orleans. They're. I say south of the river, but that river makes a bunch of bends right through there.
Yeah.
So they're south of one part and west of another part, and probably north of something else. But they're in. Well, I'll have to look it up again. I can't remember the name of the town. It was it's part of New Orleans, but it's an inner. It was. I'm sure at one time it was a city all of its own. It's a short name. Hang on, let me see if I can pull that up again. Well, and it's right across. Oh, I know. I thought it was great for you, Mark. It's right across the road from. I know how. She sent it to me in my phone. I can find it there. She sent. It's right across the road from the not muskrats. Right across the road from the Crawdad Museum.
Yeah.
Some museum that was
No, alligator.
American alligator. That's it. The Museum of the American Alligator.
You said we needed to go.
Yeah, we do. That needs to be on our list because
You do a tour to the squirrel cook-off and then go to the alligator museum. Make a loop and then go across the river and go up to those mounds the Natchez Mounds there.
Oh yeah, in Mississippi.
Yep. I'm not sure how Philip crosses through there somewhere.
Philip, when he crosses that area, he's usually up more towards Shreveport, the northern. But he has gone along. I-10 goes through New Orleans, doesn't it?
I don't know. It makes sense that it would.
Justin, is Justin still in here? Justin, you're going to have to help me with this. I would call it, Gretna, Gretna. I'll spell that out.
Gretna.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Hang on a minute. G-R-E.
You could only pronounce that a couple ways.
Well, down there they may pronounce it. Who knows how? I mean, it may just not be what I think at all. Kind of like spelling great with a A-U-X or E-A-U-X or whatever it is. Oh, no. That's somebody else.
I think it rhymes.
What part? You said you were in the desert. What part of the desert? You don't have to be specific. Just give me a state, if you don't mind. Hey, Doug. Good morning. Zippity doo. Doug has popped into the room. Arizona. Well, Mark spent some time in Arizona.
I did.
You're pretty much all over that state.
The number of human beings drove me back to the middle of nowhere.
I'm not sure what Mike said, but anyway, Tina said such a shock. Must be talking about Adam. Yeah, I was gonna mention that. I wasn't gonna go into great detail. I mean, I can't say Adam and I were friends or hung around with it or anything like that. I know there's a lot of people online that did, but I can't. But I also can't deny that he was one of the first guys I ever watched on YouTube and thought, man, I could do that. So I mean, I can't say he wasn't an influence of some sort. But yeah, he was way too young. He's 51. And last I heard, as far as they know, it was a coronary event. He died in his sleep. You know, it's.
I agree, Nico. The mountains down there were great. And people don't realize it, but like Flagstaff,
It's high.
it gets more snow annually than Laramie, Wyoming does. I think 7 to 8 feet of snow they get down there. It gets plumb nasty because you got all those people flocking up from Pahonix to go skiing and things. And they never seen snow before, and they certainly can't drive in it.
Sorry, I got something in my eye. Hang on just a minute.
Yeah, your finger.
Well, besides my finger, my knuckle. Yeah, Flagstaff. Phil, let's see. Flagstaff's just short of the south of the canyon, right?
Yeah.
And the north rim gets even more than
Huh?
the north rim gets even more than that, don't they?
Yeah, oh, it gets pounded up there.
Snow, they can't even drive in rain down here. That's a very good point.
Every year we'd get reports that they were, somebody else had drowned in their car trying to cross monsoon flooded, desert washes and things. And it's like, no, your car won't make it through that.
Won't float. I tell you what, one of the, I don't know if I was that scared at the moment, but I thought back on it a little bit. That you remember we had to cross the creek there at your cabin and the Palencios, and
Yeah,
water was coming up higher and higher. And the time we got out of there, it was rolling over the hood of our trucks.
yep.
We were probably lucky not to roll off that edge because it went the road and then off the side it dropped down to that swimming hole.
Into a bathtub.
Yeah, the bathtub. Yeah.
We had my professor came down there one year, and the Gray Ranch was all flooded over there. I mean, it was flooding at my cabin too, but it was really flooded over east. And he was in a university van and tried to cross one of them big old washes, big old deep wash, and got out there in the middle and got stuck. And he got out of his vehicle and was up over his head, and it washed him downstream about a quarter of a mile. And he ended up what stopped his wash trip was a barbed wire fence. And
that was good.
and then it wasn't 6 months later he came down there again. Maybe it was a year later. It was monsoon season. He had he crossed one of those flooded washes, and a big bunch of barbed wire got wrapped around his drive shaft and just burned his engine.
Oh man. It's lucky. He's lucky that he didn't drown then. I mean,
the man rolled a who made the Rabbit?
VW.
Yeah, VW. So he rolled a VW Rabbit off of Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado, which is way up there in the mountains. And it tumbled end over end for a long way. And he got out and he didn't hardly even have a scratch on him. And he lived to be near 100, so he lived a charmed.
I'd say so.
He was so absent-minded, he just he did things that's like, what did you do?
I hadn't heard that, Mike. That'd be, I guess I wouldn't be too surprised though. He brought Celebration a lot of, I think, good PR and reminded people of where things came from and why Celebration was even there. Nico, it sounds to me like you're not from there originally. It sounds like you came from a state that had snow, or you lived in the north part of Arizona where they had snow, something. Just from what you were saying there a minute ago, he's talking about his truck having great clearance.
Like the Navajo Reservation northeast of Flag. Good God, they get a lot of snow. It gets plumb wintertime up there. The Kaibab Plateau. Yeah.
Somebody, again, probably another chat I was in, or maybe it was just I don't know where. Anyway, I'm sure it was online. I was watching something last night. Somebody was in there, and snow was a topic, or weather was a topic there again too, and they were saying they were in Alaska, and I believe they said they had over 5 feet and were supposed to get another 1.5 feet or something by morning, or something like that, or another foot of snow before morning, and it was he wasn't too impressed with a lot of the rest of the country.
Well, it's supposed to do that up there. Although it doesn't do it everywhere, just bits and pieces.
Yeah, Tina, that's kind of how I mean, that's probably what I watched of his more than anything was his travel vlogs. He traveled all over he lived in that van pretty much for several years. He wasn't a wealthy guy. He didn't have a lot of money. And when he decided to move, he pretty much had to live in his van for a while. Good morning, Mary Ellen. But he did a lot of really good travel videos. And apparently, a couple of his buddies that work with him on this kind of thing said he had 8 trips planned across the country this year, because this is the 250th anniversary of the country, and he was going to make 8 different trips that were significant to our history. So I that's a shame we're going to miss that. I wish there were. I know one of his buddies was talking about trying to do at least one of those trips in his honor. I don't know. He didn't give any details, but it would be kind of fun to find out what they were and get some people together to do a few of them. You don't know who we're talking about, Mark, but there's a guy named Adam the Woo, and well, you may not know. You may have seen him, but anyway, he did a lot. He was an early YouTube. I'd call him a pioneer and streamer, and he did a lot of Disney stuff, but then he started traveling and doing a lot of other things, and he went to a lot of museums and just meeting people on the street kind of stuff. And he also didn't keep his money. From all I heard, he was charitable. Yeah, I heard that too. I heard he was very much that way. And I guess as he got successful, he made enough money to, buy a house so he had a place to live when he needed to, and then he could travel when he wanted to. And like I said, he was one of the first successful YouTube people I kind of followed for a while. So the announcement came out, I think it was Monday or Tuesday evening, and most people, I wasn't sure I believed it at first, to be honest, because I just was thinking maybe it was, there's so much crap goes around anymore that doesn't have any basis for truth, and something like that gets started and it literally spreads all over the country in just a matter of minutes. But that's not, I mean, unfortunately, in this case, it turned out to be true. A guy, and one of his neighbors apparently found him. He wasn't answering his door, and nobody seen him for a couple of days or a day or two. And he was usually out in the community if he was home and every day. And they got a ladder out, climbed up to the window of his bedroom and looked in, and that's how they called 911 and got a wellness check. And unfortunately, the news wasn't good. So, and it's sad. I've seen some very emotional. I've watched a few videos of people that he'd known that were longtime friends of his. It was very emotional. Yeah, Mike, I did too. Well, yeah. I'm sure some people actually thought it was funny, but they make jokes about things like that and get people all tore up, and they think that's fun. But a little bit like yelling fire in the auditorium, there's always some asshole, pardon me, that thinks it's funny watching people trip over each other. But yeah, it was. But I thought people were talking about it and asking about it, and I think I was in a Resort TV One chat. They were doing something, and they were trying to get people not to talk about it until they had more facts, and it kept coming up, so it started to feel more and more like it was true, and it was. So well, anyway, I was going to say I think he touched a lot of people, and the people that he had worked with and knew him for a long time were really emotional about the whole deal. But I get that. It's hard. Hard to we think we feel like we know people when we meet them online, or we talk to them every week online, or we see them on the internet. But when you really know, and we do get attached, and then sometimes I think it's easy to forget that there are people who are really much closer and have a real attachment to folks. Yeah, Justin's post is one of the ones that I didn't see. Tim Tracker's. I know they had been done a lot of stuff together, but I did see Justin's, and Justin was quite emotional about the whole thing, and I couldn't figure it out. He went to, he was the video I saw. He was pacing the parking lot somewhere in Orange County, California, and he was a big empty parking lot, and he was just walking around talking to the camera. And come to find out, the reason he was there was one of the first places they ever went when Adam moved to California for a while, first time. And he was a huge Back to the Future fan, and the parking lot they were in was one of the parking lots that the time travel vehicle, I think, landed. It came back in. You guys know the movies better. Some of you guys probably know the movies better than me, and that's why they were there. That's why they'd gone there, and that's how they met up. And so he was there walking that parking lot because he'd been there with him before.
Hey, the surf bum's here.
Do what?
The surf bum's here.
Surf bum is here. Welcome in, John. John was in another post a couple of nights ago, and he was having a big, I guess it was Christmas Eve. Had family over, and they were having a big seafood festival. They were doing I don't know how you say this, but reenacting or doing the Feast of the Seven Fishes. I guess that's not a reenactment, but I mean, doing it. And he was telling us all the delicious ocean-going fish he was eating. Shrimps and clams and other critters that he's caught. And I mean, we were all just a little bit jealous, I think. Mike says, let me see what Mike said here. He touched a lot of people. I felt like they knew him through his video. Yeah, I can relate to that. I felt like I knew him well, but never me either. That's why I'm not, I wasn't going to say I had, or I wasn't going to say he was good friends, because that wouldn't be true for me. But I still felt like, I still felt like he had an influence over, maybe not what I did, but at least getting me started. And when I first started, that's what I wanted to do, do travel videos and things like that. Then I couldn't ride my bike, and that part of that dream kind of ended. So unfortunately. And he got kicked out of Walt Disney World once and was banned for life.
Yeah.
But he got back. He got a reprieve from that eventually. But then he also got kicked out of Universal, and he was trying to get back into Universal, and he felt like he was. And everything I've read and heard about that was he got kicked out of Universal by a manager that didn't realize or didn't want to admit that he was there with some other Universal people who Adam would never name. He never gave them up. He wouldn't tell who they were because he didn't want them to lose their jobs. But they had invited him there to do some video, and he did it. And then an upper management person, which is usually how it works, got upset about it and wrote him a nasty letter and said he can never come back to Universal ever again. Okay, let's go back to John here. John's talking about the feast. Let's see. Let me catch up. More like Feast of the Seven Crustaceans. That counts, though, John. We went to go watch a movie last night. We saw, where'd it go? I lost it. You saw Avatar 3.5 hours later. My butt is sore. So what'd you think of it, Mike? I've not seen it, I didn't see the second one. I really liked the first movie and I enjoyed it a lot. And we haven't been to movies in forever, and I just didn't go see it. Brendan and I were talking about watching them on TV this week. We hadn't done it yet, but 3.5 hour movies are not common these days. I can remember when more movies used to be, close to 3 hours long, if not longer. And I guess people's attention span these days just doesn't, so they don't make movies that long. But you can I've seen several movies that were that long and maybe longer. I went in and watched the theatrical release of Gettysburg that was made a few years back. It was so well done, and it was over 3 hours long. It was a great movie. That had an intermission in it. You don't see intermissions very often anymore. And it was an honest to God, get up, stretch your legs, and come back and watch the second half.
Lawrence of Arabia's got a big old intermission.
Who?
Lawrence of Arabia.
It does. Well, that's another long movie.
That name sounds like royalty. Are you royalty?
Yeah, he was still banned at Universal. He was trying to get that. He had a lawyer working on that, Mike. He was trying to get that lifted. Tina says she can't even do a 2-hour movie anymore. Tim, it's not my attention span. It's my bodily functions. Well, yeah, there is that, Tina, but I was trying to be polite. John said, I can't sit that long. I have a bony butt and that hurts to sit for 3 hours. I'd have trouble. I have to get up and stretch a little bit. My back starts hurting bad, or nowadays my legs start kicking, and I have to get up and walk it off a little bit, or it can drive me nuts.
I agree, Nico. I don't like the name Lawrence. From now on, you're Gomer Pyle.
Was he quoting something else from?
Well, we were talking about Lawrence of Arabia, and then that moved me over to Gunnery Sergeant Hartman in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh.
In the boot when he first meets Pyle.
I was trying to pick up the abbreviation he was using. That's Gunnery Sergeant. I got you. I should have figured that out. Nico, you wouldn't be a Marine, would you? I don't say used to be because I know that Marines are Marines forever, but better than the second one. I heard that too, Mike. I heard that 3 was a better movie. I don't know. Did it feel like they wrapped it up and there won't be any more, or I don't know if that was a series or if that was all.
Weren't they going to do 4 total?
Do what?
Maybe it was just 3
of that. I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure.
They filmed all the extra ones all at kind of the same time.
Kind of like they did with
Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Yeah. I would wait until get it at home and watch it and have a pause to go to the washroom and go to your fridge. It's good to have, that thing about commercials. Nobody likes commercials anymore, but that's when I get up and go to the bathroom and grab a cold beer or something out of the fridge. I kind of thought commercials were useful, not for watching, but for getting up and moving around. Supposedly, James Cameron said there won't be any more avatars. And Doug says being banned from Universal isn't an all bad thing. John said he actually his dad talked him out of it. Mark's dad kind of did him too.
John ended up in the daggone
Air Force.
Some tropical place or Sandy. He ended up in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah. I went.
It's sandy, just not tropical.
Windy. When I was in AMP,
it's been terrible windy this winter. Terrible.
When I was in AMP school, I met a couple of guys that were there on the GI Bill going to school, and they had both joined the Navy. They're both Navy. Not retired. Well, no, they weren't retirees, but they'd been in the Navy, and they were going to school to get their A&P license or working on it anyway. And they'd worked on aircraft at some level in the military, or in the Navy. But talking to them about, they got to talking about, they signed up because they wanted to travel, they wanted to go on the ship, and see the world kind of stuff. And they got sent to a missile range in Arizona. They were out at one of the
like at Yuma or some godforsaken place.
They spent their whole time in the Navy in the middle of the desert. Said they were making fun of having a life jacket for something, and didn't exactly need it. John said wind and pronghorns. Very smart, John. All Marines wish they would have joined the Air Force at some point while they're embracing the suck. Nico knows the language, Mark. There you go.
Yep, every single one of them. Like what? What was I thinking? What?
I think, Mark, it's been a year where the wind is everywhere. Instead of swirling around in one place, it just keeps swiping across the whole continent.
I agree, Tina. It's been my folks have been extremely windy there in the hills of Appalachia. Parts of West Virginia have been getting pounded, and we had a 144 mile an hour gust the other day in the Laramie Range, north of where John used to work, and it's not even the record, I found out.
Oh, really? What is the record?
146.
What's the? Hey, wait a minute. I saw Disney Dave, and hey, Dave, Disney Dreams, welcome in, buddy. Mount Washington.
Dave.
Mount Washington in New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, it gets terrible.
They've got some of the highest winds ever recorded, and some of the coldest temperatures ever recorded, I believe, on top of that mountain. And it's not even that high. It's not.
Yeah, it's not like it's a 14,000-foot peak.
No, it might be 6 or 7. I mean, I'm not even sure it's that, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. It's under 10, I think, for sure. And but it's just at that perfect spot in the world, I guess.
Well, it's under 10 because how high is Klingman's Dome? And
that's right. Yeah, that's higher. Yeah, that's
that's the highest point in the Appalachians. So
the highest point east of the Mississippi. So
it used to be tall.
Actually, Klingman's isn't considered the tallest anymore. Mark, Black Mountain is. Which I didn't know this, but North Carolina and Tennessee used to argue over which one was taller. And this is no joke. One of them's actually got a pile of rocks. There was a movement created where people were going to carry rocks
up to Klingman's Dome and reclaim the title.
Yeah, there's a cairn of rocks that was back up over my head. And
they did that in Wales.
Do what?
They did that in Wales. They had a mountain in Wales that was like the first mountain that if you left like England, the first mountain you hit in Wales was, I can't even say it, Fenangaru or something like that. And it was, when they measured it during World War I, they decided it was 900 and some feet. So all the townspeople like got together and made it a mountain. It's got to be at least 1,000 feet.
Anything under that's just a tall hill.
Yep.
Tina, are you seriously talking to me or Mark? The one in Wales is true, and the one in Klingman's Dome is true too. I'm not sure it was how serious it was, but people were doing that. They were stacking rocks on top of Klingman's. They were going to get those extra few feet. They're both over 6,000 feet, and I can't remember exactly how much changed.
So John asked me if Medicine Bow got a bunch of snow. It got pounded. I don't know if it was 6 feet, but it was a lot. And then northwest Wyoming, where it's supposed to snow deep every year, Yellowstone and Jackson and all that country, they've really been getting pounded. I saw the other day it was kind of warm, so they were worried about avalanche. So they did some like man-made avalanches trying to head off disaster, and they piled over 30 feet of snow over the highway. It all roared down through there and got clear to the highway that goes to Idaho.
Hopefully
and they had big old equipment up there moving snow, trying to tunnel through all that.
Hopefully they didn't catch anybody on the highway. They had them all shut down first.
Yeah, the highway was closed, and they did the avalanche, preventative avalanche, human-caused avalanche, where they set charges and.
Yeah, right.
And they dropped away. It went further, and they dropped more snow than they planned for. So you don't get to decide how much comes roaring down those mountains.
No, the mountains decide that.
It seems like every late winter, early spring, we get people that running snow machines up in the mountains that get caught in avalanches.
John, I was going to mention that because I know there's a couple of places out there that actually use small field pieces like small howitzers that they've got set up, and that's what they do with them out there. They fire charges into the sides of the mountain or across the into the heavy snow areas, the avalanche areas, and create avalanches. I've seen pictures of them doing that. I've never been there when they did it, but I know them. They've got retired. Well, I guess they're not retired. They're still using them, but former military howitzers that they're actually using, the small ones, like I want to say like a cavalry used to use, but it wasn't for cavalry. They were later than that, but small field mobile pieces that they can be hauled around. Actually, some of them are called mountain howitzers, I believe, because they were, small enough to be towed with a Jeep up into rough country. But anyway, they still use them for that, which I think is kind of cool. I mean, you don't meet a lot of
That'd be
people.
a fun job.
It would. That's what I was getting ready to say. I'd like to have that job, learn how to fire, be an artillery specialist, just to, blow avalanche threats down the mountain. I think that'd be kind of fun. You just don't get to do that every day. I mean, that notice post in a newspaper, job wanted, or personnel wanted to, and then you start reading it and it's to fire cannons off into the mountain. I mean, how many people you reckon lined up for that job? I bet everybody and their brother signed up. I would have signed up. I would have thought that'd been a great job. Oh yeah, you put up with a little cold weather and a little snow to go do it, but I mean, you don't get to fire a cannon every day.
And watch a whole mountainside come.
And watch a whole, yeah.
So between Laramie and Cheyenne, John knows this country. There's you know this, you've seen it. There's a part of the Forest Service lands up there that's called Vitavue. And it's got these really weird, like moonscape kind of rock landscapes. And there's a giant rock that sits on this pinnacle. I mean, giant, like the size of a house, giant. It's a big round rock that's just sitting on top of this little pinnacle. And Tim Patton used to say, boy, it'd be fun to like get up there and take a stick and make that fall off the top of that pinnacle just to watch it roll down the hill.
Okay, so here's another thing. If you grew up in the mountains, at least you're going to understand probably. I don't know how many times that I personally have stood at the top of the hill and rolled rocks down just to see how far they would go or see what they would run into.
And they start bouncing and
they tumble and they roll and they hit the trees and they
redneck kids up there like woo
at the top of the hill. Oh,
didn't take much to amuse us.
No. John said he'd spent many times up there. And maybe that's why I learned how to dodge things. I probably told this on here before, maybe not. They were extending the runways in Nashville when I worked down there in the 80s. And they had to extend them. They had to cross over some major highways and do some crazy stuff. And there was a rock quarry on one side of that mountain and on one side of the highway. So, there was lots and lots of really hard, there was a lot of rock there. And they had to do a lot of blasting every day. It was firing the hole, and we'd have to all, just because every once in a while you'd hear little rocks hit the top of the hangar or something. And one day that I was walking out across the ramp of the tarmac on the flight line, and heard the fire in the hole alarm go off. And I'm talking a couple thousand feet away from where I was at, not right at me. But then the call went out and they blasted big old round of art. I mean, it shook the ground all around. And I look up and I probably heard it first, and I hear this woof, woof, woof kind of a sound. and I look up, and here comes a rock, literally a boulder, spinning and flying through the air like an artillery round. I always imagined it sounded like those balls on a chain that they used to fire out a cannon into ship's rigging, because it was going woof, 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 woof. And it was a big old flat rock, and it was irregularly shaped, and it was making that noise. And it literally came across in front of me, bounced over, and I'm talking 50 feet. I'm watching this thing hit. And there's airplanes all around. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's it going to hit? What's it going to hit? And it bounces over one in front of me, went under a wing, small airplane. It managed to bounce just perfectly to go under and not hit anything. And this rock was about this big around, in an irregular shape and about that thick. And it bounced up and went to the main flight line, went under a very expensive corporate aircraft, bounced over another one, and wham, hit the back wheel of one of our tow motors, the tugs that we moved airplanes around with. And there were people walking on the ramp. There were linemen up there had just gotten off that tow motor. They were fueling airplanes. The fact that one of the airplanes that the boulder jumped was a King Air that they were fueling at the time. So that could have been really bad. And that rock come to a stop and just sort of flopped over. And we're all standing there just like, what in the heck was that? And I mean, it was just the strangest thing. And it was just surreal. And I thought that must be what it was like to, fight in the old days when they were shooting big balls at you and they rolled across the battleground. It was just, it was wild. Yeah, it was like it was coming at me, Tina. I mean, when I looked, I'm being hyperbole a little bit, but if I had kept walking and hadn't heard it, I would have been really close to it when it came across the ramp. I mean, when they blast that stuff, they put mats down and, they don't expect anything like that to escape. But boy, that one did. And which reminds me of another story about dynamite.
They probably all went on lunch break after that one.
Oh, yeah, I bet they did. I'm sure there was a lot of, I was probably the one that I had to go clean out his drawers, but I'm sure there were a lot of guys sitting over there shaking, watching that and thinking, I didn't do that. Did you do that? No, John did that. No, I did. He did that. Kind of finger pointing going on.
Who didn't put the mat over that right?
When I was working in high school and I was at downtown Johnson City at Free Service Tire, the railroad tracks ran between the back of the building we worked in and a bunch of warehouses across the tracks then. And there's a creek that runs through Johnson City, and I can't remember the name of it now, that used to flood a lot. So they decided to do some channelization and rerouting and put in some bigger culvert bridges and things so water could flow through town. Because it'd get blocked going through a culvert under a street, and then it'd be all over town. Anyway, so they had to blast almost the entire thing. So every day they're in the middle of Johnson City, it was fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the hole. Everything is shaking, then it'd be quiet for a few hours. And one day they got up right behind the building I worked in. And we're working, doing things. And when they call fire in the hole, we were all supposed to get on the other side of the walls and inside under cover of our building. And they set off a charge. And when they did, they put a mat on it. And then they put a D9 bulldozer or D8 cat and drove up on it and set it to hold the mat down. But they didn't calculate the charge right. And when it did, the whole thing blew and the D8 sunk down into the whole hole and dropped all the way down below the level of the ground. They like to never got that thing out of there. they finally had to bring a train car with one of those
big
railroad
train.
train
Mm-hmm.
that would lift that kind of weight and put it back on the railroad. And those railroad tracks were shut down while this was going on. And they had to reopen that and bring a crane in on a car and have them pick that thing to get that bulldozer up. We were out, we'd take lunch break and we were out there watching them try to get it out and kind of pointing and laughing at them. But after that, they got real. And then one day they set off a charge and smashed a Volkswagen. And after that, they got real serious about the mats and didn't let anything else happen. Nico says, my close friend is a coal miner in West Virginia. He has so many. I bet he does. I knew a guy that worked up there for a while, Nico, that was on a blasting crew and talked about packing the holes. And, that was one of the first places I ever heard of them using ammonium nitrate as a blasting agent. And they'd pack those holes full of that stuff and blast those charges in rock quarries and in the coal mines. I think this guy I know was in Kentucky. Nico was saying that a close friend of his was a coal miner in West Virginia.
Yeah, the stuff they've done there is crazy. Eastern Kentucky and Western West Virginia.
I missed this. Tina said when she was growing up, she had a 600-foot downhill driveway. She rolled rocks down that. John says those weathered rocks out there look ancient. Talking about Wyoming and that rock you were talking about.
Yeah, it just looks like the surface of the moon. It's cool.
No, Tina, I'm pretty sure I wasn't. There was a guy sitting on that had just stepped off that tug and moved an airplane and gotten off that thing and then within seconds that rock hit that tug, and that tug was very, very heavy, and it barely moved, but it did move. When that rock hit it, it shifted a little bit. It got everybody's attention. Anyway, stories of dynamite. I mean, but to be able to do that for a living and watch the snowfall would be really quite interesting. You remember Pat Patrick that taught welding at Crockett?
Oh, yeah.
He grew up in Hazard in coal country, and he worked mines up there for a while and was a powder monkey or whatever they called him back then when he was packing, drill holes when they were blasting sides of the mountain out for coal. He talked, and in fact, I shot a little bit of dynamite with him years later when we had to blast some rocks for some projects he had. And he eventually told me where he learned how to do that stuff. And that's back when we could go down to the hardware store and buy dynamite.
Yep.
Can't do that anymore.
There was a country, what was it called? It was a hardware store there in Cheyenne, Country General. And the employees in all their stores, it was kind of a chain. The employees wore red shirts. And we'd go over there to buy whatever for work. And our uniform shirts were red. And you'd be like, game warden to be in there with you. He's got a pistol on his hip. and people would walk up wondering where the 16 penny nails are at. But anyway, how it ties into that, we used to go to that store all the time, buy dynamite to make pothole lakes for ducks.
Yeah. My buddy Steve Cottrell did that years ago.
And you could just go in there and buy it and put it in the floorboard of your pickup truck and drive away. And it wasn't no big deal. It is now.
Cottrell was going to do a big project off Douglas up in Douglas Lake. You fished Douglas, and there's a big flat area on the far end of that where the Nolichucky, right across from where the Nolichucky comes into the actual reservoir, and it's called Rankin Bottoms. And there was a coal tipple there, and the railroad used to actually run through part of it many years ago. But it's a great wetland now, and it floods. It has shifting water levels, so it's great for wading birds, and they've really developed it. Well, he was earlier days of his job, they were still doing that, creating potholes, with dynamite.
Yeah.
And he hired, I think it's the Hercules Powder Company or whatever their name was that made dynamite too, and he hired them to bring a load out to the site. So that he was doing this with the state of Tennessee, and they were going to deliver several cases, I guess, of dynamite to them, and they were gonna make potholes in this big bottom. And so Steve had them drive the truck out there, and it's packed. Now this thing's packed with dynamite. I'm sure this wasn't their only delivery. And he said, go right over there and park, and we'll unload it. Well, they went right over there and parked, and the truck went sunk right down into the mud up to about the window.
Right up to the axles.
They like to never got that one out either. I asked him how
Nico's talking about tannerite. You can still buy tannerite. You just go into like the sporting goods or Walmart just about and like buy tannerite right off the shelf.
Hold that thought.
And it makes a big
Mike, thanks for stopping by and tell Diana we said hi and think about her dad, and hope to see you guys again real soon on here or at something else. But talk to you soon. What else was around? Yeah, I actually am amazed that you can buy tannerite, and I've heard people say, well, tannerite's not dangerous, so you can't do anything with it.
Oh,
That's not
heck,
true.
it's not.
I had two guys walk into our office one day. I didn't even know what the stuff was. And they walked into our office, and they're standing there. I don't even know why they were there. And they got talking about something, and then the topic of beaver dams came up. And these two old guys, now these are just two guys off the street, wearing bib overalls, country guys, farmers maybe. And they said, well, we take care of them beaver dams for you. And I was like, how you going to do that? Well, we just pack it full of tannerite and shoot it. And, we can blow them right open. So I got to investigating what tannerite was. I didn't know what it was then. And it's supposed to be for an exploding target so you can see if, so they said it was so you could know you hit a long distance target. Maybe that's true. But then I watched a video on YouTube one day where a guy packed a car they put a whole bunch of, this guy was getting married. And for his bachelor party, there was this old car parked on their farm, and they were going to let him shoot it with a high-powered rifle. And they packed it full of like 40 pounds of tannerite, and maybe even more than that. They'd all been buying it and saving up, and they put it all together. And that car came jumped plumb up off the ground. And I mean, it just destroyed that car. And I was sitting there thinking, and you can buy this at the hardware, you could buy it at places like Walmart. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe that.
And still.
Yeah, and still, you can still buy it.
And we have sent things flying for hundreds and hundreds of yards with that stuff. It's fun,
crazy, man. It would be fun.
But it's not safe. I mean, it's not. The fact that they sell it just is amazing to me.
The fact that they can still, that they still sell it. But I don't know. I've never been around it. well, I mean, I have seen it, but I've never experimented with it. But I guess it takes something like a bullet, the impact of a bullet, to set it off. If you light it, you can't just light a match and it blows up. But I suspect that if you put some kind of a blasting cap on it, I bet that would do it. It'd be like plastic explosives.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
can
I'm
store that
cleaning my
stuff
glasses.
and like get a little ball of it and heat your coffee.
Will
If
it
you
do that? Oh,
if
you're
you-
talking about plastics.
Yeah,
Plastique. Yeah. I've heard your dad talk about doing that.
Dad said all the line guys, all the grunts loved when the engineers came anywhere near it because they always traded for a little C4 for heat tabs. They work better than the heat tabs.
Yeah, they just break off a piece, strike a match, and heat your soup up or
You
your
can heat your
whatever
coffee.
kind of rations you have.
You put your C-Rack can right down on top of it and light it, and it just quickly heat that water.
So I guess in that respect, it's a little bit like Tannerite. No. Well, I should have told Mike Happy New Year in case we don't see him again. We won't see him again here. Okay, so I've done all this. Let me do this officially and kick things off, since I haven't done that. Well, oh, why does that do that? Why does it do that?
It's somewhere in your notes.
You're making me feel bad. Oh, shoot. No, what's not in my notes is a reminder: do this first, then do that. Now do this. That's what should be in my notes. Step by step, play by play, to get it right every time. And making it work every time like this.
There it is.
So when it pops up on the big screen there, you'll see that I put Adam's picture on the front because I just want to, I guess honor him or say goodbye in a sense. But we've done that. So like I said, I'm not going to sit and say, we were close buddies and great friends and make up stories and tell things that I can't back up. So, but still, like I said, I can't say he wasn't an influence, because when I saw him traveling around doing videos, I thought, man, I could do that. So here we are. Anyway, I only have a couple of slides, and this was sort of an homage to 2025, because guess what, guys? Next week is 2026, which is still hard for me to kind of believe. This year, I don't know where this year's gone. All the usual stuff. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, and try to hit some rabbits with your bow and arrow. So I'll just threw together some quick notes, and I just realized my wife's not here. She was going to show up. But she wasn't feeling good, so she may not make it back. Now that I think about it. But if I don't try to call her, she'll be upset that I didn't try to call her. So let me check with her. But I was checking through my records, and hey, are you up? Are you in the show? Are you watching the show? Okay. All right. Well, you didn't say hi, so I wasn't sure. All right. Bye. Mary Ellen says, "I've never had squirrel. Does it taste like chicken?" we
No,
can go with that, Mary Ellen, but I'd say no. That's
not
just
at
my
all.
opinion.
Nowhere does it taste
But
like chicken.
but I've been told that rattlesnake tastes like chicken, and I found that not to be entirely true. A squirrel, rabbit. I've even heard people say rabbit tastes like chicken. I don't think it does. So I'm going to say no. But if you like chicken and you think, "Ooh, I wouldn't want it," then you need to try it first. In fact, Mary Ellen, you live in Oklahoma. Well, it's still a little bit of a drive, but there is a huge squirrel cook-off every year in western Arkansas that you could drive to and have all the squirrel you wanted, different kind, and prepare every way you can imagine. Frog legs taste like chicken. I think frog legs taste like frog legs, and I do like frog legs. Now, I tell you what,
We eat more than our share.
That's something I'd like to have a mess of is frog legs. I hadn't had a good mess of frog legs since probably the last time you and I went frogging. So, according to my records, in the last year, we've done somewhere between 57 and 41 shows. And that makes no sense to me. I don't know where the difference is. I counted them up one way. I counted my videos that I have history of that are on YouTube, and it said 57, which doesn't make sense either because that means I've had more stuff in there. But I might have had some night shows. I don't know. So that's possible, but I don't think it is. But then I got to looking through my other notes, and I only had 41. So I think 41 is probably closer to the truth. And I'm sure there's a couple in there that I didn't do anything on because we were just BSing. And in those shows, we've talked about a little bit of everything, and I mean that literally, including some of the following. We've talked a lot about if it's time to kill moose and squirrel, cartoons, Looney Tunes, Bullwinkle and Rocky, or Rocky and Bullwinkle, I guess is how it says. We've talked about 1,001 ways to cook a squirrel. A couple of times we've talked about that. And the annual squirrel cook-off that happens every year out in Arkansas and others around the country. Mary Ellen, she likes western Arkansas. What's the name of that town, Mark?
I can't. It's just south. It's between Fort Smith and Fayetteville.
Yeah, in that area.
Northwest corner. It's on the highway between Fayetteville and Fort Smith. It's a north-south running highway. I can't remember.
Well, maybe that's probably it, Tina. 57 may be correct because now that I think about it, you're probably right because the YouTube list would include Thursday night shows if I did any and anything else, whereas my folder that I keep on my computer is all of 2025's Saturday Morning Shine shows. So that's probably right because I split those up. So that's probably true. I probably did do 57 shows, but 41 Saturday morning shows is what it looks to be. And we've talked about a little bit of history, our own American history, as well as most of the world's history, or some parts of it at least. We've talked about how people crossed the land bridge from Asia and how they probably crossed the ice bridge from Europe to get here. We've talked about, things that have been dug up here that people can't explain and don't know when they got here. We've talked about footprints in the rock out in several places. White Sands, New Mexico, there's some, and then there's some in Texas. And was it White Sands is where they found that really large section recently, though, isn't it? Or is that Texas?
That's the best one. It's got little kid tracks and adult tracks, and mom leading a little kid,
Right.
obviously, and giant ground sloth and mammoth tracks all at the same time.
And if I read correctly, just in the last couple of weeks, I saw something that said that that's not while we all the things you said, but they've uncovered like thousands of tracks.
Yeah.
It's not just a few hundred or a few dozen, it's thousands.
Miles and
It's an
miles.
amazing discovery. We've talked about dinosaurs and footprints.
What's amazing is that was a marshy, wet kind of, valley, and now it's covered in white sand.
Sand and gypsum, yeah. We've talked about let's see, we talked about dinosaurs that became birds. We've talked about big and little dinosaurs and how the names have all changed more than once. Let's see here. We talked about making sharp tools out of rocks. We've talked about making sharp tools out of copper and bronze and steel, and how those weapons or tools were used to harvest food and harvest and process food. Mark is a flint knapper himself, and we've talked about that a lot. We're gonna do another show about that sometime, and we're gonna set up a camera on you so people can see you sitting there doing that for a few minutes. I think people would find that fascinating. I mean, it's just breaking rocks, but it's breaking rocks in a precise pattern and method. And there's all the little intricacies you have to know about. This rock's going to break this way, or that flake might come off like this. I mean, it's amazing to me. And I can't imagine, Mark knows about that because he's sat beside people doing it and he's read books about it. But 10,000 years ago, they were just learning trial and error, or probably more than that. But, they had to sit there and figure all that stuff out. I can't imagine how long it probably took somebody to actually perfect that when they had no master to show them how to do it. They had to learn it from scratch with no books to read, no videos to watch, no.
Well, they were sitting at the knee of Grandpa or whatever.
Yeah, but Grandpa or somebody had to learn it on their own. That's what I mean.
But it's a 200,000 plus
year history.
Yeah. People that weren't Homo sapiens, humans that were of the genus Homo that were not sapiens, like Erectus and others, were making stone tools even then. A couple 100,000, pushing 300,000 years now. So.
I know we've probably talked about this, and I should know this, but what's the oldest atlatl dart they've found? Or throwing stick? Do you know?
I have no idea. I should know that, but I don't. It's easier to date the advent of the bow and arrow than it is atlatl.
Yeah, probably.
They used atlatl way longer period of time. And then at one point they were just using thrusting spears.
Correct, right. And that was getting really up close and personal.
Neanderthals were big thrusting spear guys, and their bone injuries suggest that they were like riding for the PBR, doing bull riding.
They were riding woolly mammoths.
It's like walk up to that mammoth or walk up to that woolly rhino and just poke a sharp stick in him.
and then
and
run.
hope you can get out of the way.
But that's my favorite spear, Paul. Well, you just go ahead and use it anyway, son. Yeah, it was we've talked about some things like that. We've talked about some trees. We've talked about the American chestnut. We've talked about sugar maples, just to name a couple of things we've talked about. We've talked a fair bit about rodeo, because we do that, bull riding in particular. We've talked a little bit about horse training, and a little bit about saddle making. That's another thing I'd like to catch some video of you doing. I'm going to come out there and spend a week or two and record some stuff, and then try to edit it and put it together and make a vlog out of it. And did I happen to mention squirrel hunting? Because we've talked about that a time or three. So that's just some of the things I tried to look through videos and think, what was my favorite show of 2025? And I don't know. I don't even know if I can name one. I probably had a couple that weren't that great, but the thing is,
was 2025 the history of the car seat year? That was my least favorite.
That might have been year before last.
That might have been the previous
2024. I'm not sure exactly. Tina says or 12, time or 2 or 12. Well, maybe 12, But I just, if I can get on here and sit here and talk to you for a couple hours a week, because we could talk about just about anything and enjoy it. And
as Barney Five would say, that's therapeutic.
Therapeutic. That's right. We've talked about hunting muskrat. We've talked about beaver
Eating
pelts,
muskrats.
eating muskrat. We have. Tina says it's all time well spent. Well, that's. See, now she's saying 24. Well, maybe, Tina, but let's don't blow a little thing out of proportion too much now. You give people the wrong impression entirely. Speaking of which, did I tell you I got a new squirrel gun for Christmas?
I saw. Well, I saw photos of it.
You did see it.
Does it have a compass and a stock and something that tells time?
I think I'm going to put one in it. And a thing that tells time. A compass in the stock and a thing that tells time, I believe is the way he said that.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we've talked about before. I sat and watched that a few times over the weekend, Thursday. I had it on out here while I was sitting here in the library doing some other stuff. So I got to hear all my favorite parts at least 3 times.
He had yellow eyes, I swear to God. He had.
God, yellow eyes. The Scott Farkas affair. It became known as the Scott Farkas affair.
Scott.
Excuse me.
And his little toady. What was his little toady's name?
What was his name?
Grover Gill.
Yeah, Grover Gill. I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my dad on you. That's kind of how bullies are, though. So I don't know.
That's like the time I turned around and a 6-year-old Bradford raised orange was pointing an arrow at me.
Oh no!
Because I was older and was out walking him, and he was. You need to wait up for me. You need to wait up for me. And he said, hey. And I turned around and he's got his bow drawn. And he goes, what I'm going to do is shoot you. And then I'm going to go tell your dad.
I'm going to go tell your dad.
And that's a quote.
I guess he didn't shoot you.
I'm gonna shoot you, and then I'm gonna go tell your dad.
Well, I'm glad he didn't shoot you. If he did, he didn't shoot to kill, apparently.
Oh,
Tina says the car seat show was in 24. Guys, I'm
oh,
sorry
good.
about that, car. I didn't mean to mar so many people, physically and mentally for the rest of their lives. I thought I was on a topic. It was going to be interesting. I just got kind of drawn in there. It was all a thing. It just happened.
I had nothing to offer in that.
Well, sometimes you just got to listen.
I just
Go
felt
along
like
for the ride.
maybe you ought to just chuck them in the bed of the pickup.
Well, that's how we rode, so I can't lie about that part.
My wife and I watched the movie Mud last night, which is one of our favorites. They're over in eastern Arkansas on the Mississippi, and Matthew McConaughey's in it.
Oh, yes.
And they were filming that movie when my oldest daughter got married down there in Mississippi, and right straight across the river, in the fish camp that they were using to put people up during the wedding was also used by that crew. Anyway, I don't even know why I was talking about that now. It's gone. Poof.
Well, we were talking about
kids in pickup trucks.
kids in pickup trucks.
That movie is full. The two kids that they hired to be in that movie were just country boys from Arkansas. And there were all kind of scenes where the kids are riding around the back of the pickup truck.
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that. Tina says even though
it was historically very interesting.
And that's my point, Tina. Trying to make things historically accurate and interesting and educational. Well, we thought about safety when we were riding in the back of the pickup truck.
In bubble wrap.
Children had to learn how to hang on back. Yeah, they did. That was what I was getting ready to say. We thought about safety. I mean, many a time my dad's told me, son, get off that tailgate and get up in that truck. Or, don't sit on the side of that truck bed. You'll fall off.
Don't sit on the rail.
Don't sit on the rail. You'll fall off.
I can remember hugging the cab. It'd start raining. And getting right against that cab, which was warm. And it blocked, some of the rain. And
well, it was dry, kind of dry until they stopped at a stop sign or a red light.
Yeah, and then you got wet.
But yeah, lots of that. I can remember net fishing off the shore in Amelia Island, Florida, one time when I was about 16 or 17. And we were driving down the beach hunting for schools of mullet. And I was standing on the tailgate of a Comet station wagon, holding a barrel of ice, a beer and ice. And the tailgate was down, and I was holding on to the roof rack, I believe. And we were just going down the beach at a pretty steady pace, not real fast. And I'll never forget, because the guy came up beside me in another vehicle, and he said, "Hey, throw me one of those cold beers." And I didn't want to throw it because I was afraid he wouldn't catch it. So I got a couple out. We're still driving, mind you. We didn't stop. And I just thought I'd jump off the tailgate and hit the sand running and give him and get back on. And that's not how it worked out. I hit the ground and rolled. Me and those beers rolled right down the beach a ways. And then I got up and I handed them to him, and I got back on I caught up with my station wagon and got back on. But the point was, I was standing up on the tailgate looking over the top of the car looking for fish. And, you know, we were probably going 15 or 20 miles an hour. It wasn't real fast, but it was fast enough to hurt when I hit the ground. But of course, back in the day, they had more kids, so parents figured they had extra.
Survival.
There's probably a tiny bit of truth in that, Tina. I wouldn't admit to that if I was one of them, or if that was me. But I mean, there might have been just a little bit of truth in that statement. That is, I mean, that's partly why they had so many kids, because they didn't usually figure some of them wasn't going to make it. And maybe now that you put it that way, and I think back on it, maybe that was a little dangerous. I don't know.
Evolution.
Evolution. That's right. That's how we evolved. Look, I mean, we evolved right into the car seat episode. We could have done a whole thing on transportation from beginning to end and ended up with the point where we reached the car seat, period. I mean, think about that. That's probably increased the population of the planets tenfold. I mean, we might could have been better off
all
without that.
face backwards, and you got to ride a car seat till you're like 13 or
something like that.
It's ridiculous.
Speaking of facing backwards,
my mother still would rate a booster.
Well, she is a little short, yes.
Well, I mean, it's height and weight kind of a deal.
Well, yeah, or an age limit, one or the other. Or at least it is back here. You remember when I can remember somebody we knew had a big station wagon, the truckster, family truckster kind of station wagon, and the seats in the back, in the way back, as we called it, opened up and they faced backwards.
Yeah.
You looked out the back of the car, which for many people was not a good thing because car seat
makes your car seat.
Yeah.
Never made me car seat riding in the back of a pickup truck like that, but that's because it was cool.
That makes a big difference. When we were growing up, air conditioning wasn't really a thing in the car. Air conditioning was forward windows rolled down at 60 miles an hour. So you say 4x6.
Cigarette ashes blowing in your face.
With cigarette ashes blowing in your face. Yeah. You know, dad in the front seat flicking ash out the window and they come right back around into the back windows. I've had that happen a few times.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else have I missed there? So that's just some of the things we've talked about. And I started writing and I don't think I got it done. Let's see. I was a little late actually getting out here this morning. I wanted to finish something. And I woke up on time, but then I fell back to sleep. So I meant to put a whole bunch of thank yous in here because I want to thank everybody that's here today and everybody that's been here in the past and it's not here today. You know, we're missing a few. Carol, Kay, a couple of other folks. I mean, it's meant a lot to me for you guys to stick around and be here every week. You, Mark, to be here. And like I said, this is our way of getting to spend some time together, really, every week. And it's I've enjoyed it for the most. I mean, I have. I want to try to do some better shows in the future, and you know, not promise to maintain or bring the quality back up to what I think it has been at times, and other times it's been lacking because I just haven't. I've been lazy, I guess, and so I'm gonna keep working on that and keep doing shows. I do want to try to get out and do a few other travel about shows. I'm serious about coming out your way and filming some stuff. I'd love to get some video you making things, or get your daughter to help me with her photographic skills and video you doing some stuff. I'm shedding. I'm sure that was a beard hair I saw floating away there. But, and I'm always, and again, I'm going to try. Another thing I'd like to do, and this is including you, so don't think I'm saying I want somebody else to come on, but I would like to get some other people, bring some other people on and talk to them about what they did, how they grew up, what, just, different topics. I'd like to find a couple, maybe get some guys that do wildlife work and talk about that some more, maybe a different kind, maybe some fish guys or, people that just grew up in the country and did things different or did different things, maybe I should say, or people that just grew up like us, but maybe grew up in a different part of the world, or maybe even some people that lived higher in the mountains than we did. I don't know. But I would like to try to do some of that and just
Bring a hider in.
things.
That was one of my favorite shows this past year was when we had Cottrell.
And I'm going to try to get those guys back on again. I tell you what, since Dave retired, all I see on Facebook is that boy out fishing. So I think he is enjoying his early months of retirement. And because I've not heard much. He wanted to come back on and do another show, but I've not heard much out of him. Now, I'll tell you what I think's going to happen. Although now that he's retired, he may not matter because looks to me like he's been going south to go fishing a lot. He may get into a fly tying season. Used to be people when it got too cold and snowy or frozen, they'd tie flies and get ready for spring. So maybe if he gets in the fly tying mode, I might be able to get him and film him doing some of that. And so I got to call him and talk to him about that. And
so Nico's going to the mountains when he retires. Cabin in the mountains.
Which mountains you going to, Nico? You already got a plan? It's absolutely great for the soul. The mountains. I don't know. And here's the thing. I do believe this. I mean, most people tend to go from where they're from, or a lot of people, not all people. A lot of people go retire, they go south, they go to Florida, they go where it's warmer. And I get that for a lot of people. But for me, I wanted to come home, sort of. I wanted to get where it was. I've been coming east from Nashville where we were down in a big bowl and it was not flat, but not mountainy either. And I've slowly but surely made my way back to the mountains. And if you grow up in the mountains, probably either, and I don't care which mountains it is, I think you're always going to miss that part of your, they're a part of your DNA. They're in your soul. And I think you got to get back to that. I don't know. I'm not saying that very well, but it is great for the soul. I mean, it's part of who we are. And, Mark's not living in the mountain, not on the mountain, but he's close to them and he spends a lot of time there. And it, that's, anyway, if you grow up in the mountains, you know what I'm talking about. I guess some people won't get away.
Feet here.
Do what now?
It's only 7,000 feet here.
Yeah, it's only 7,000 feet, but it's flat.
Well,
it's not flat, but it's not flat, but
it's not the
you're like in high desert.
Yeah,
but the mountains are nearby. They're
20 minutes away.
I'd consider you living in the Rockies. Nico says I'm out west. He's staying out west, either Arizona, Utah, or further north. I didn't grow up in the mountains, but I wish I did. You came from the east, Nico? And again, you don't have to tell anything you don't want to tell. So you can always say, no, I don't want to talk about that. And I respect that. But since you brought it up, Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do go to the mountains and retire, but they're not, and they're not always from there. But I think if you're born there and you're raised there, I think there is everybody. I guess everybody's not like that. I shouldn't say that, but I do think they're part of who you are. They become part of who you are. And some people try all their life to escape that, and some people embrace it. But it's not the suck we're embracing in that case. It's a whole different thing. Now, getting out of the holler is not a bad thing, but coming back to it is a whole, that's two different kinds of things. When you come back, you're a different person. And I think that makes a big difference too. But I think, Nico, if you can make that happen, small cabin in the mountains, I think that sounds like a plan. He's from Wisconsin originally. I've lived in the east, the south, in the southeast. Big difference from Wisconsin. My son-in-law's from Wisconsin. In fact, he's up there right now. He left yesterday morning. Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. I always think of that James Taylor song. I think he's from, I guess, what I'd consider southern Wisconsin. I can't remember the name of the town. It's not too far north of the Wisconsin southern border. I guess outside Illinois, I guess is right below them. But he's up there visiting his dad. And Kelly stayed here. I talked to her yesterday. She had work to do, so she wasn't going to go up this time. And then the other daughter is her and her husband are in New Orleans visiting kin down there, but I don't think they're going to be. Last year they were gone a couple of weeks or more. He works at UT, so they're off they get off 2 weeks, I think, for Christmas, or maybe it's 1 full week and then he can take off. Anyway, they're usually off through New Year's, so that's usually when they come back. She was going to try to talk him into coming back a little bit earlier, so they may be back this weekend. I don't know. They all showed up here last week, and we had our Christmas last Saturday afternoon and Sunday. It was a 2-day event. But we had a good time. Then Brenna's been puny since then. And I don't know, she was up earlier today. She seemed to be moving around a little bit better. So I'm hoping she feels better today. I don't know. She hadn't been able to keep much on her stomach. The only thing she's been able to really keep down is chicken soup. And I can't tell you how many times I've been to the grocery store now to buy chicken noodle soup in the last few days. I need to learn how to make that in bigger batches. But anywho, Nico, for the record, I'm back to origin stories a little bit. Mark was born in Tennessee. I was born in Tennessee. He actually was born in Western Tennessee while his dad was in the military, and moved to the mountains. And then but their family's from the southern Ohio and that part of the Appalachians. So when we talk about buy a lot and freeze it, I need to do that, Tina. But then again, we weren't really planning on her being, sick for a week. So, but I need to do that. I've never had a formal favorite family chicken soup kind of recipe. I kind of wish I did. That's something I need to work on. I need to come up with something that's our own twist or our own little how to make chicken soup, Tim and Brenda style or something. And we could make and freeze that. And I'm hoping that today or tomorrow to make a big old batch of chili. I'd like to have that for hanging around for a couple of days or 3. Maybe if I can't conjure up some cornbread with it.
My bride made a great big old pot of soup beans with the ham hock in it, and a bunch of cornbread with that, and a big old pot of chili.
Oh,
Mama's chili, and
Mama's as in your mama's recipe or hers?
Mama's, yeah, and I'm sure she got it off the back of a McCormick package or something.
Chili-o mix.
back in the day,
That's the only chili I ever had growing up. And I can't remember somebody showed that to my mom. I don't even think she got chili, because chili wasn't a thing that my mom probably or dad grew up eating at home. I mean, they had lots of soup beans, don't get me wrong, but they didn't necessarily have chili. And then chili sort of showed up in the 60s in East Tennessee. It's kind of how it feels like. And then, recipes started going around. And the thing I remember back then was Mom always had packs of McCormick Chili-o mix in the cabinet. And that was the main ingredient we used. And I tell Philip that, he just kind of looks at me and rolls his eyes because he's a made from scratch chili kind of guy. But yeah. I bet you when he was younger, I bet he ate lots of Chili-o chili. That'd be my guess. He went somewhere, he just came.
McCormick packs and tomato juice and sometimes canned tomato juice, but usually just, big can you buy from the store.
Yeah.
Hamburger and kidney beans. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I
got out wandering the planet and ended up in the Southwest. It was like, well, that's not chili.
That's not chili.
You're just trying to kill me.
That's what Phil. See, Phil just came back from Arizona. He was out there for about almost a month. And when he goes out there, unless he's got something else going on, he always goes through, or he tries to go through, either going or coming through southern New Mexico and Arizona, or into Arizona. And he always goes to Hatch or somewhere in that area and buys either fresh chilies or chilies that they've dried, or something. He usually buys a couple of big old bags of chilies while he's there. And I know this time, I don't know what kind, but he bought a bunch of, I think, frozen green chilies that his sister had asked him to pick up, and took those with him the rest of the way to Arizona. And I'd almost be willing to bet he brought some back east with him when he came. So he likes to do it that way. He likes to get his chilies, a couple different kinds, and grind them up and, work the heat from that end of it. And Nico says his other half's family is from Chattanooga. Well, my goodness, we're almost neighbors.
Just down the way.
I worked. If you spent much time in Chattanooga, then Nico, probably know what TVA is, and I worked with them for 23 years or so, and it's been a fair. We've got offices in Chattanooga. They do. So there's a few things in Chattanooga though I've never done. Although one of the coolest things I ever did around Chattanooga, and Phil showed me this. We were in Alabama riding motorcycles on a trip, and he said, I got a route I want to come back north on. And so we climbed up onto the mountain, which turned out to be the southern end of Lookout Mountain. And we got up there and rode. There's a highway that literally runs down the spine of that mountain. And there are places where you literally look down one side and down the other side. And that highway just runs, just pretty much straight, which straight highways aren't a lot of fun, except when they're like that. And
I know the spine of the mountain.
well, I mean, literally, you feel like you're right. I mean, it's not quite as sharp as that, but you feel like it is because, I mean, it drops off on either side pretty quick. And for example, there's one spot you drive by, and there's cars parked kind of on either side of the highway, and there's a building there on one side. Going north, it'd be on the west side. And if you stop and get off, you see that is the hang gliding center of that part of the world. And 20 feet from the highway, they're stepping off a cliff and gliding down into the valley towards one of those towns that Alabama has a song about. Now I can't remember the name of it. Some place where they worked in the sock mill. I want to get a choo-choo in Chattanooga. Hey, T-Town Mary Ellen, did you see Dell and Jenna did that this past year? I'd like to do that too. In part of the Chattanooga, the Choo Choo Hotel, Mark, they've actually got a bunch of rail cars, the executive kind that had staterooms and were probably privately owned, and they've converted them into hotel rooms. Usually there's two of them in each one in each end, and you can rent one and stay in it down there if you want to, which I think would be kind of cool. Jenna and Dale did that, and they walked around and showed kind of how they've got the courtyard laid out for that part, and there's a whole, eating, dancing, have a good time section of that. I bet Freddie'd enjoy it. You need to get Freddie over here and take him down there. Freddie is from Ireland, Mark. I don't know if you didn't get to meet Freddie, but maybe next time Freddie's in town, he'll stop by.
He's from where?
He's from Northern Ireland.
Oh,
Ireland. He's from the old country.
He's an Ulster Scot.
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm not 100%.
He's our people.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'd love to get Mary Ellen if he gets back into the States. I'd love to get him on the show some weekend and talk about, because we've talked about that a lot. Mark and I both have.
Talk about how cool his accent is.
Yeah. Both of our families hail from some part of Ireland, from the northern part and the southern and the Republic. I've got my great grandfather came over at the end of the potato famine, so mine's not too far back, and settled not too far from where I live now. But anyway, I'd love to get him on and talk someday, have a good discussion about Irish history and get some straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. I bet he's been to. Mary Ellen, correct me. He's from Northern Ireland, right? Yeah, you talk to him about that. I'd love to do that sometime. I don't know if we've ever shown it on here, but there's a place up there. It's called the Giant's Causeway. So for some reason, I want to say we did talk about that a little bit, but that there's these giant, I guess, basalite type crystals that formed up there, and they're just this huge area of these giant stone crystals that came up, and they've broken off at different heights, and they look like a road across the end of the ocean. Yes, Northern Ireland. And it's the coolest thing ever. I need to get some pictures of that and show you some of that. There's some cool stuff over there.
He doesn't live that far.
Oh, okay. There you go. Isn't that neat, Mary Ellen? I can't imagine standing there. I mean, I've just seen pictures of it, so I just know those. Anytime I see natural features that look like that, it's just, I mean, it tends to hold me spellbound. It's just amazing. It's like that. It's a little different, but crystals, I mean, they're kind of the same the way they form. there's different kinds of crystals, but that, I don't know if it's in Mexico or South America, but that cave they discovered is way deep. And they found a room down there that's just full of these giant quartz crystals. And I mean, they're just like sticking out of the sand, and they're, you know, pointy on one end and 6 or 8 sided, whatever they are. And they're so deep, and I don't know if it's what they're made. The area down there is hot, and you can't stay down there very long. And those are, I think we have talked about that before. That's just amazing to me. But that's way deep underground. The ones at Freddy's are much cooler. They're out in the open air and on the coast of Northern Ireland. So yeah, I'd love to do that sometime, Mary Ellen. I'd promise to you know, do him right. I wouldn't half-ass the show, pardon me. I'd make sure we did it right. If he ever wants to do that, we'll talk about it ahead of time and lay it up, set it up. Which is another thing. I mean, I'm always open to that. I'd like to talk to a few more people. I'm going to, you know, I'll try to get. There's a couple of local people I'd like to get on the show some Saturday, and so we can all talk to them, and you know, Mark and I can bounce things off of them from different sides, but probably speaking the same language, literally. Speaking of the same language, I keep finding video sites or YouTube sites or shorts, reels, where there are people, you know, speaking the language and that we both understand and probably speak. And it's kind of interesting that people are doing that now, I think, on the internet, and bringing and making an emphasis of how we say words and what words mean that are different, and where the language actually came from. And while we all have our variations of it, and it's changed because we've moved around and stuff, it's still basically the same. Oh, and Bushmills Distillery. He lives near that too. I think I've got some of that right here. Let me see if this is, yeah, I do. See? Bushmills. Famous Irish whiskey distillery. Anyway, that's all in the future. So if anybody has an idea, I bet that distillery is not dry. You know, it's a funny thing in this part of the country. Kentucky has places like this, in Tennessee, like Jack Daniels is in a dry county. So if you do a tour of Jack Daniels, you don't get to sample the product or anything, and they can't sell you a bottle to take home because they're not allowed to. Well, we could talk about bourbon, Nico. I wasn't going to right this minute, but Irish whiskey came up because Bushmills Distillery. So, you know, I didn't want to miss that opportunity. And that took me totally off that got me off kilter. What was I going to say? Yeah, and it is always a possibility, Nico. I don't take much off the table, and that's one of the things I definitely don't take off the table. We got to have a drink at the end of the tour. Oh, that's cool. The good stuff. Redbreast is not bad. I've had Redbreast. In fact, I emptied a bottle of that last year sometime and had it. I've got it back here I couldn't toss it yet. I'm keeping the cork. My daughter bought me a board to put corks in, and I haven't worked on that recently. I need to pull the cork back out of that and use it, put it in there. I mean, you know, in this part of the country, they raised a lot of corn, and they couldn't always grind enough up to make cornbread. So the rest of it they put in a bottle, either in a mason jar or crock jug, and they sold it that way because it turns out corn transport's better in the liquid form. I've gotten into the bourbon the past few years. Ah, okay. Are you getting ready? Are you getting ready to hit the road, buddy?
I'm having volume issues.
Oh, okay.
Am I getting ready to what?
Oh, wasn't sure if you were getting ready to have to hit the road or go trapping, or if you had company or
Well,
what.
they're going to show up here in a while, and we're getting ready to get way cold, and so we're going to pull the line and reinstall once
It's freezing.
the river gets done doing its uppy downy, gets tired of changing every day.
Oh, that's cool, Nico. What? How many muskrats you guys pulled out so far?
Not very many. It's
Anything
been pretty light harvest. There's sign everywhere, and they're just like this section of the river is pretty hard to trap, and it's we're looking for some stability. Once the ice gets on and it stays on, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, you've not had that this year at all. It's been up and down.
It's been crazy.
I've talked to you one day and it's 4 degrees, and then the next week I talked to you and it's back up to near 80. It's been a real up and down year. Kind of been that way here too, for the most part.
Mom and Dad's too. It's been way, and then everybody gets sick, and
oh yeah. Have they had much snow?
They've had quite a bit, actually.
Have they? We've had one little bit, a couple inches, and that was come and gone. It didn't last any time.
They've been getting, 6-inch snows, and then
Tina thinks the muskrats are getting smarter. They know how to stay out of sight now. Better.
Okay. The problem is the river's about, I don't know, maybe 30 feet wide, and it's pretty fast flowing through our property, and necking them down to a box this big is kind of tricksy.
Hard to do, yeah. Kind of tricksy.
I'm sure there's a little ice on this morning. We probably got some sets because some of the jaws of the conibears are above the water level now because it dropped, and I'm sure I got frozen traps in today. But
yeah. What the water level though right now? Is it high or low for normal compared to if there is a normal?
I think it's low, but I don't know. It's pretty low.
You're not setting anything big enough for beaver, are you?
Oh, we got plenty of beaver there.
I know, but are you setting any traps for beaver?
No, we're not. No,
I didn't think so.
I'm afraid to catch river otters, so.
That's right. We've talked about that.
And we got
you got lots of them.
Pair of them that are. I find their tracks every day. They're seeing them, the actual otters. I've done that a couple times, but not a bunch. But they're running up and down that river at night.
I met a lady. We were out on the lake one time a couple of years before I retired. I don't know if it might have been Dave and I might have been out, but it seems like it was somebody else. It might have been Angela and a crew. We were out doing shoreline. Anyway, we ran into these maybe a couple of people. We were checking on a boat that we thought was adrift or something. Anyway, we talked to her. She came out, or maybe she was just out there, and we started. Anyway, she was trying to clean out this boat. Her father-in-law had passed away, I believe, and he had an old houseboat or boat house that was floating a little ways offshore. You had to take a small boat to get to where they had the bigger boat parked, and because that's an area on the lake that didn't go dry. It stayed wet
Right.
all year, so they padded out more towards the middle, and were in a position where they were allowed to do that. But anyway, they had this sort of a cabin cuddy type cabin cruiser boat, an older boat, kind of like what the old guy I used to live by had in Nashville. And I don't know if you ever saw that boat he had or not. You know, I'm talking about the old guy next door.
Yeah.
And he was going to take the trip down to the Tom Bigby waterway and go to the Mississippi. Anyway, she was cleaning it out because it was just absolutely a god awful mess of some kind of animal feces, and they'd torn up the seats. They'd been all in, and she thought it was beaver, and I believe it was probably otters, because they were the boat dock owners in the area had three problems with them. One, they'd get into their bait bucket. Sometimes they could get into the bait tubs. I don't know what to call them, where they kept their minnows and sold out of. The otters would get into them, and they could clean up pretty quick overnight on a captive shooting fish in a barrel, if you will. And the other thing was the otters would get into their customers' boats, and they'd get into the foam that the docks were floating on, because a lot of the older docks here still had, and they're getting rid of it over time, but open foam that was underneath a lot of floating docks and things. Well, beaver actually would make dens in that stuff, and otters would either use those dens or make their own. I'm not sure what they did, but dock owners had an awful time with that. So this one, and you know how otters are, they always crap in the same place. They build latrine sites, and that's where everybody goes. The whole otter clan goes to the same spot. And I think that's what she was trying to clean out, but she never did see the critters. They were never around when she was for it. But I'm pretty sure that was otters. And otters, while it seems odd to me, otters are more. They've exploded again back here once they were reintroduced, and now you can hunt and trap them pretty freely. There's very few limits on them. You got to do the CITES thing, and I did read up on that, and bobcats too, like we were talking about last week. You and I were talking about that. They do have to have the CITES tag, but they're perfectly legal to buy, sell, trade. They're not on that kind of a list anymore. And I just wonder how many people here are trying to, catch them for fur.
Well, we could in Arkansas when I was in school there. And then here, I think somebody tried to modify their status this last year. I mean, we got numbers and distribution are back up to kind of normal. And it'd have to be heavily regulated, but they're pretty abundant now in some drainages, and we historically had plenty of them on this river, and it's been a while since they were here, and they showed back up, and it's like, holy, look, river otter tracks on the ice, in the snow. And there's slides where everybody lays down on their bellies and slide.
Their bobsled runs.
They're cool.
What?
Like a luge.
Yeah. Actually, more like a skeleton. I think skeleton, you go down head first, and a luge, you go down feet first. Do what?
Are they laying? They're backwards on a luge.
A luge, you're on your back going feet first, but a skeleton, very similar.
Face
You're laying
first.
face first. Yeah, you're on your belly and you're going face first. Kind of like we always did when we were sliding and skidding in the right there where the sleigh said, "Don't go down face head first." Anyway, that we wouldn't do that, would we?
Well, that's where they put the controls on a runner sled.
I guess they think you're just supposed to use your feet. I don't know. I always had a lot more luck laying down and using my hands personally. What dropped the population out there? I'm not going. We don't have to get too deep into that, but I mean, was that just trapping pressure or
Over harvest?
Okay. Same thing here. I mean,
They're
basically,
pretty easy to catch, and they're
yeah.
It was it was unregulated pretty much, and yeah, it started clear back in the fur trade.
Well, that's what happened in this part of the country, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio. I mean, they got trapped out largely, and all but disappeared in this state, except out in West Tennessee. There were beaver. I'm talking about beaver now, and some otter. But most of the otters that were reintroduced here came out of Louisiana.
Yeah, they're a dime a dozen down there.
And I've seen them in Florida too. That year I was down there doing the lizard study. I was out by the boat dock one morning early, and here come a whole troop of small otters down the beach. A female and 2 or 3 young.
And, we saw 4 on the southern tip of Roanoke Island, out in the sounds there, and
out in the salt water.
Yeah, out in the salt water. Yep, that was kind of cool. We come around a curve.
How that affects them.
We were in a salt marsh fishing, and we came around a curve. We were just in a fishing kayak and turned around some cattails, and there was or tules of some kind. They're like, "Why are you here?"
Well, hey, mister.
The closest one just had a look on his face like, "What in the world?" People don't come back here on purpose.
Kind of like Dave's beavers in the tree that day.
Yeah.
What in the world are you doing in here? Oh, that was so funny when that happened. The pictures were hilarious. You guys are getting some good sized elk herds back now as well. Yeah, you know what, Nico? If you're talking about us, I don't know if you're talking about Mark or me. I mean, Mark does too. Mark more so, but I was just reading this week, or so. Actually, it was a thing. It was on PBS, and it was out of Southern Virginia, and they were talking about that it was done by the Virginia DNR and DNR. Natural Resources, and they were talking about the elk herd in Virginia because of the elk in Kentucky and some in Tennessee. The elk, they moved into Virginia now, and I think they've got a sizable herd there. I can't remember how many animals they were thinking they had, 1,800 or something.
Mom and Dad are just across the border from the river from Kentucky, northeast Kentucky, and they've had elk on the Ohio side of the river several times.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of black bears coming in too.
Yeah, well, I'm still waiting for the black bear to come rolling through my yard. They have been seen in this county, so I know they're around. We just haven't had one real close yet. I could start baiting it and see if I can get one in. I don't think the neighbors would approve.
No, probably not.
I could start I could build my own walk-on rock and, start baiting it every morning. I'd see what I get. We were out here. I don't know if I told you this or not. When Jen and Brian were up here last week, Brian was up here at the library, and we stepped out or started to step out of the library, and course, it's dark. It was dark. It gets dark here early right now. And he heard something up on the hillside rustling through the leaves. And I suspect it was that big feral cat I see out here once in a while. If I find out that don't belong to somebody, I'm gonna have to do something about that. But anyway, he stepped out and he said, "You got a flashlight?" I said, "Yeah, why?" I said, he said, "Well, there's something on the hill." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, a squirrel?" He said, "Well," he said, "it's probably nothing." He said, "I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a bear coming down through your yard." And I thought, now, where'd you hear that? But it would be. I mean, I could. Yeah, it could be. I won't deny that, but I didn't
They
think
have
it
the
was.
ability to sound like squirrels digging around the leaves.
True. They can be, man. They can be pretty.
I've been awful close to one because of that.
I'll never forget that story. I mean, I was there. I just wasn't there at that moment. And you come up and you're like, "Yeah, I saw a bear." I said, "Oh, did you?" And you said, "Yeah, it was about this close, face to face." In fact,
Making squirrel sounds.
yeah, you were about snout to that one. Nico, I think I'd have to look at the book, which is right here somewhere. It's on the couch. I'm not sure now if they're allowing to hunt a few elk in Tennessee. Kentucky is. Kentucky has a season, but I don't think they draw that many tags yet. But they do. They are harvesting a few, and we've had them. Probably some out of the Kentucky herd. There's a golf course north of Norris Lake. It was just kind of out in the middle of places you wouldn't think there'd be a golf course. And it was pretty much surrounded by national forest and TVA lands. And we started getting calls, and there was a bull, pretty good sized bull elk had decided that he was going to hang out one winter on the golf course and just, munch grass and have a good time, I guess. And he stayed there, and we kept thinking that the golf people would start raising hell about it. But the thing is, it brought a lot of people in to see it. So they got a lot of new members at their golf club. Nico says it's very hard to get an elk tag out there. I guess you mean by back here. I think they're only maybe, that's about right, Nico. That sounds about like what they are, but I suspect over time that's going to get changed a bit. Hey, Adventures by D, welcome in, buddy. How's North Georgia or Middle Georgia?
Probably balmy. Probably balmy.
Well, it's balmy here, so I'm sure it is. And the sun's decided to come out, so it probably warm right up today. I was out 2 or 3 mornings earlier this week, last weekend. I was stepping out at night when I'd go down to the house, and the handrail would be frosted over. And, it was cool enough to do that. And I put my jacket on and walked to the house. And this morning I came out in my shirt sleeves, and the only reason I brought a jacket was in case it rained later. It's that warm today. So I'm sure in Georgia it's at least that warm, or this warm.
Something's upset the Ursus Rebelus.
Uh-oh. Company?
He's sitting here just I don't know.
Nico, do you do some hunting out there? Do you do any bird hunting or anything? Mark used to do a fair bit of bird hunting in that part of the country. Or, well, in some parts of Arizona anyway. Good morning, Rhonda. I miss seeing you come in. You guys need to come out this way soon.
Turkey and elk.
Well, now, let's see, where are you, Rhonda? I thought you were still in this part of the country somewhere. Come out this way soon. Turkey, elk, and mule deer. Cool. I don't know what it's like out there. How hard is it in that part of the country to draw tags for something like an elk? If you're an out-of-stater on one, probably not easy. Although, don't they have some sections in Arizona where they've got some really big elk? I mean, kind of known for.
Yeah, I mean the biggest,
big racks.
The biggest. Well, that the subspecies they used to call Merriam's elk got extra.
Okay, sorry, Rhonda.
And they brought Yellowstone elk down there and reintroduced them back in the 40s and 50s, and they turned into Merriam's elk.
Imagine that.
They got that big, and that the biggest elk ever was killed on I think the White Mountain Apache reservation there.
Nico said something about they've got the biggest elk in the country now.
Yeah, 500.
It's
like 500 and some inches, and that's a lot of antler.
That's a lot of antler.
And they're big-bodied elk too. And that you get up in that northern half of the state, they're a dime a dozen. But it's hard to get. It can be hard to get a license.
Chris has seen moose in Alaska, but he was too awestruck to get a photo. I understand that. I think I've been there, done that myself, but not over a moose in Alaska. I'm jealous because I'd sure like to go see moose in Alaska. I've still got that itch. I don't have it as strong as it used to be, but I still have the itch. Usually the biggest bulls in the White Mountains on the reservation. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. I know I've read stories about bow hunters, people bow hunting that area too.
So I was trying, when I was working down there, I was trying to get the tribes to give me some bluegrouse for a relocation. I had a place where the birds had once been there, and then they got that little pocket of birds got wiped out or just died off, had a bad hatchery or whatever. And so I was trying to reintroduce them, and I was working with the White Mountain Apaches, and their system of government is interesting. I had to take my proposal to basically the entire tribe, and if anybody had anything like, no, I don't want you to do that. And this old lady that lived up kind of in the northwest corner of the res, she's like, yeah, I think we should leave our birds alone. They don't hunt them because having guys out there with shotguns impacts the archery elk hunt.
Ah, gotcha. That makes sense.
So, they
yeah, for the uninitiated
elk.
If you're new here, Mark used to work for the I don't know what they call it out there, but the Game and Fish Department.
Arizona Game and Fish.
Arizona Game and Fish a few years back, and mainly worked with furry carnivore type critters. But you started out working upland game bird, didn't you? Or did you do both the whole time?
No, I was the bear and lion and fur bearer biologist for a few years, and then I went to small and upland game. So squirrels and rabbits and all the quail.
And then they do have they have some cool quail out there in the desert, man. Gambles, and Arizona's probably do they have Californias? They probably got mountains.
I think you're right, Nico. I think you can only hunt and I'm not sure what rules apply to the tribal members, but if they have firearm seasons or seasons at all, sometimes it's just you see it, you can take it and eat it. Hey,
Oh.
he's
Wolfgang.
twice your size. That was
don't
Wolfgang.
He don't care about size. Size don't matter, man.
He's like that Shakespeare character, although, and I think it was a girl in the particular poem. I can't remember which one. Although she be little, she is fierce, and that's kind of the way he is.
He's a little bit like Carl Lewis said. Bleeding don't matter. Bleeding don't have nothing to do with it. So
It
maybe
doesn't
size
have
don't
nothing
either.
to do with running.
I got bit by a cheetah once and still that running. It's also very expensive to hunt on the res, and I don't believe that you can keep the meat. That's possible. They probably do. I mean, they probably do keep it on on native land. I'm sure it gets distributed. I would hope so. Anyway.
Then you have to hire a guide from the res.
I've never seen. I don't think nowhere we ever hunted in New Mexico were there elk. So biggest thing I ever saw out there were mule deer, and but I did see some, and I've seen them in Wyoming though. Got pretty darn close to one day with a bow, but couldn't quite get through the woods. Dang it, that thing was there was like a patch of woods between us or me and that. I think I had a doe tag that year maybe, and it was a big doe, and she was just on the other side of that brush.
Or cow, you mean?
Or a cow, excuse me. I'm sorry, a cow. And a female of the species, and I wasn't going to, there's no way I could have punched an arrow through that crap and hit something. Yeah, New Mexico has some, in the northern part of New Mexico, in the mountain, but not where we were at. I don't know if they get that far down now or not, but
there aren't any elk down there in that part of the state in the Boot Heel.
Yeah, I didn't think there were.
Cows, deer, and mule deer.
Tell you what you did have down there, though.
Lots of pronghorn.
You had some pretty good sized pronghorn. I can remember seeing a couple of really nice.
New Mexico's the state where the largest pronghorns come from.
That's what I was thinking.
That guy killed one there by Socorro, I think, south of Albuquerque. That's just almost hard to imagine. It was that buck was huge.
Yeah, I know there were a couple of really big ones on the Gray Ranch.
Yeah, buddy. Some cool ones too, some cool non-typicals.
Yeah. Which is not something I think about much with pronghorn. They all seem to be pretty much the same. I mean, look-wise, what makes them non-typical? The bend or the shape?
Well, they're just the shape of the horns, and they don't score them as non-typicals, but a buddy of mine in Arizona shot a pronghorn buck up by Prescott that was enormous, 90 plus inches, and because they're such a weird critter, they used to have a lot of relatives that had more horns than just two.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that gene still expresses itself in modern pronghorn. And
cool.
The buck he shot had a horn on its nose like a rhino and two horns underneath its eyes. It was cool.
Dave, I'm glad you brought that up because you guys are close together, and you're maybe talking about an entirely different kind of meetup, but not to sound morbid, but things like Adam passing and other people we've lost in the past year or so, it's just made me want to get together with, at least our bunch of folks somewhere in the next year or so. I'd really like to plan to get together and meet up with as many folk as we could somewhere in the middle. Or it's been mentioned to people coming up this way and go to Dollywood for a visit, or at one of their locations or whatever. But I'd still like to do that. So I'm not going to interrupt this whole conversation for that, but that's a thought. And I would love to work that out with anybody. We've talked about it several times. I'd really like to see that happen and get as many people together as we can for a meetup in this part of the world. That way, if people can't go to Disney right now, or they can't get down that way for a meetup, maybe we can all meet up somewhere else. And by and large, East Tennessee is probably a cheaper destination, even though Dollywood's not. I mean, it's just like anywhere else. It can be expensive, but the area overall isn't probably near as bad as going to Florida for a period of time, for example. But anyway, I'd like to do that. I really would. I'm serious about that. I'd like to, anybody wants to talk about that, by all means, drop me an email or send me a note and we'll start working. I told somebody once before I'd start working on that. And if there's any interest in it, I'd still like to do it. I mean, I realize it's not a big crowd, so we're welcome to bring anybody else we know that we're friends that happen to be YouTubers or whatever. But I'd love to get together with a bunch of folk in this part of the world, or someplace, close by. I'm not opposed to traveling some. I'd love to do that, because it's just, you just never know, we're not all going to be, we all know we're not going to be here forever. We act like we're going to be, but we're not. And, there's so many, I've met so many really cool people via the internet, electronically or whatnot, virtually, that it'd be a shame not to meet some of them, more of them in person. Rhonda says, yeah, Adam made me realize I need to get my estate planning. Well, that's true too. I've got to work on that. I've got, as you guys know and can see, I've got a room full of books. Some of them at least somewhat valuable. I've got other items that I've collected over my lifetime that are worth a few bucks, and I need to get that stuff in order. So yeah, I need to work on that too. I got lists of things, but I don't have a list of all my books. I need to do that. I've got a few back here that I think are actually valuable. I know I do, in fact. That little book I had a couple weeks ago out, it's not laying here right now. The Kermit Roosevelt book has actually got some value. Yeah, yes, she would. Lisa'd be up for that. That's a good point, Mary Ellen. I have no doubt about that. And I'd be more than happy to bring some of mine along too, including someone to notify everyone, because I'm not sure how that would happen. That's another thing. If you're online and you've got an online presence and people know you, and I've seen this happen. I mean, sometimes people just disappear and you don't know what happened, and then 6 months later you find out they passed away or something. And it's really, and that may not be exactly what you're talking about. You may be talking about a more personal perspective, Rhonda, but even that, I mean, those are all important things. My aunt passing away not last week, but a couple weeks ago. I've realized my family, my paternal and maternal family, my aunts and uncles and cousins and whatever, we're thinning down. There's not many of us left. Not near as many as there used to be anyway. Well, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that. She was a pretty neat lady. She worked at the Davy Crockett Birthplace State Park for many, many years. When I was not living up in this part of the country. What? Or was that something else? Can you hear? I'm thinking he's having volume problems still. Oops. Perhaps more than just volume problems. He gone. Maybe he'll send me a note in a minute. He may not be back in if he's having problems. I think he's aggravated because his volume wasn't working today. Yeah, that's what I meant. It bugs me. It bugs me. Oh, and up in Alaska too. Yeah, that's another good place to, something could happen and you wouldn't know about it for a long time. Or vice versa. What did Tina say? Yes, she would. Oh. And Tina says she also has that fear, Rhonda. Anyway, I've got to get that stuff done. And in my case, I have daughters that know how to handle the state stuff, or at least some of it. And if I go first, they can help Brenda get things settled and lighten her load, and then she can take off and go live at Folly Beach or somewhere. So anyway, I guess I probably ought to shut down. It's afternoon. In fact, it's 43 minutes after. There's some football. College football's starting to thin out. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that by nature of the internet, we can go a little time without chatting. That happened with one of my friends. I was like, man, she's been quiet. She'd been sick and you didn't know it. Didn't tell anybody, right? Maybe I'm now tell anyone. Yes, there it is. Yeah, that happens. And again, like I said, it's easy. We spread out in the sense that we know people all over the country. I mean, I know people. I can honestly say I know people that recognize me as Tennessee Bear, or some of them just know me as Tim, that live all across this country that I have never met and maybe never will meet, but yet we know each other. And I've always worried a little bit about that disappearing sort of thing. Your presence is just suddenly gone. And all your friends are left wondering, reckon what happened to that guy? So, it's something to think about. And I can't remember. Somebody told me one time that there's a way you can set up like Facebook that when you pass away, somebody can, do something that says this account's been disconnected or it's no longer in operation but I'm guessing that if you just die and nobody really knows it, whatever you posted last in your Facebook or Instagram account, for example, would just be there for years to come if nobody bothered to change it. Oh, I got something here before we go. My dad's account is still active. That's the kind of thing. I guess that's the kind of thing I think about too, John. I don't know. Yeah, you can. My nephew has access to change it to a memoriam. Okay, there you go. This is the Christmas present I got from my wife. I don't know. Some of you may or may not have heard me talk about this, but I like to write. A lot of you do know that. And I like to write with my hands. Unlike years ago when I was younger and I hated it. Over the years, I got to where I love to write. And I started writing with fountain pen a few years back again, trying to learn. It's something I'd never really done. And yeah, we can, Rhonda. And I don't know if we currently have, we've got stuff like that written down. It is always possible that it's not current, and we should. Anyway, I'm going to finish this before I forget it. This pen, this particular fountain pen, and Mark he may not take credit for this, but his first wife and he, when I graduated from college at at the age of 40, they sent me, I don't know if that's going to focus or not. They sent me a fountain pen, and I started learning to write with it. And it was a Pelikan pen that was made in Germany, and I liked it. And I started getting a little better and better with it. Well, I have started writing with them again, and I've got a couple of different kinds. One is I've still got a Pelikan. I've got one that's just kind of an off-the-shelf Faber-Castell that I really like too. But this one was something unique. And it reminded me of pens that I used to find in my mom and dad's writing. They had a desk that had come from, I don't know, one side of the family or the other. Mom and dad had it. And it was a secretary desk. It opened up to a flat top. And it had some spaces for books, and then cubbies, behind the desktop. Anyway, I used to find these pens in there. And they were the kind of pens that used to have a little lever, and that's how you filled a rubber bladder that was inside the pen. That's how you filled it with ink. Well, nobody used them anymore, and I didn't think they were any good. I didn't like them. Didn't know how to write with them. I wish I had them now. Anyway, over the years of looking at pens and thinking, oh, I like that pen. I still don't have many because I don't want to go overboard, and I could really easily go overboard on something like this. But I saw these pens recently, and I had to have one. There he is right there. Hang on a minute. That's Mark telling me he's dead. I'm pretty sure in the water. Pretty sure. Audio difficulties. That's what I thought. He was losing volume. Anyway, this is called a Mark Twain pen. And it's called a crescent pen because of this metal crescent right here. Doesn't have a lever, it doesn't fill up, but it does have a rubber bladder. And what you do is you unlock the crescent by turning this band. There's a the band that goes around the middle, and it has a slot, and you line that slot up with the crescent, and you pump that, and that's how you fill it with ink. This pen was made by the Conklin Writing Company or pen company or ink company. I don't know what they were. And Mark Twain started writing with it. He used this to write. Probably wasn't the only thing, and they probably paid him to do it, so it might not be as cool as I think it is, but it's got his name on it right here. And all these pens are engraved with the name Mark Twain, and it's because of this crescent filling system. So anyway, I got this one for Christmas, and yesterday I got it out of its very nice leather case. And it's not a super expensive pen, and pens can get very expensive. And I filled it up, and I've been writing with it, and I love it. I think this is maybe the best writing fountain pen I've tried yet. And I don't know value-wise and what it costs compared to, say, my Pelikan, which was a fairly pricey German-made pen. Well, fairly pricey, as in over $100. I like this one better. I like the nib. It's smoother. I just like it. I like it a lot. So that's cool. Nobody else in here may care about writing pens, fountain pens, but I like it. It's cool. If you're out with a pen, I highly recommend them. I got some of those a couple of months ago, but I haven't messed with them yet. You mean fountain pens, Rhonda? Oh, there's some. You'll find all. There's some really cool places out there that sell ink. There's a couple of one. There's one called, is it Catfish? I don't know, they use a catfish on their logo. I love office supplies. Some of them I do too, Rhonda. I'm a little queer for pens and pencils, for example. I love Pentel pens. Now, Mark hooked me on Pentels. He got me started using mechanical pencils, and I still like to write with a pencil and a Pentel, but I've really fallen in love with this ink pen. I think I'm going to be using them for, this one isn't disposable, but I have seen disposable ones. I like these to be refillable. Most of the ones I have either have this one, for example, has a reusable cartridge. They call this a converter. So you can buy just an ink cartridge, plug it in here and write with this, throw the ink cartridge away, put another one on. Or you can take this rig and you turn this knob and you fill and refill, and you can see that one's a little bit low, so I need to refill it. But and this is a nice pen. I like this pen too. But man, I like the nib on that Conklin. It feels so good to write with. It's very smooth. And you got to learn to hold your hand right. And it makes me wish I had learned to really write properly when I was a kid. None of us thought that was important back then. And then I got in high school and in later years, and they didn't really encourage cursive. And so I quit. I started printing everything to the point where I got to where I just about couldn't write cursive. And kids these days don't know anything. It's like a foreign language to them. So I've been trying to do some of that and remember some of that. My grandmother was a school teacher, and one of the things that she did, of course, they used to probably beat it literally into you with a ruler on your knuckles, was how to write properly. And people that I never dreamed of would be able to do it have some of the most beautiful handwriting. My grandmother had beautiful handwriting until she got to where she couldn't do it. And I used to work with a guy that had a bulldozer, and that's what he did for a living. And he'd done that since he got out of left Vietnam in the 60s, and he'd saved up his money, and he bought a brand new D8 model of that year, 63, 64 bulldozer, and he still had it, and he used it, and he was the best guy on a bulldozer I've ever seen. He still is, as far as I know. And his son, he taught his son. But anyway, I'm not sure he ever finished school. I was thinking one time he told me he hadn't finished high school, but he may have. I can't remember. But he had the most beautiful handwriting. And I never would have dreamed it if I hadn't seen it, because he just wasn't that kind of, he was a rough and tumble, get out and work in the dirt and, kind of country guy who you don't really expect that from, or at least I didn't growing up. Man, his writing was so perfect. I've always been, and then I got to where I wished I could do that. So I'm getting better. I write, if you looked at my notes, there's sort of a combination of everything, but I've been trying to write more and more with, if I'm not using a pencil, then I've been trying to use a fountain pen. And, it's getting better. I wrote some stuff yesterday that I thought looked halfway decent. Probably won't be able to read any of it, but I mean, that's some of it. It looks I wrote those really quickly, but anyway, I'm working on it. It's getting a little better and over time, and then again, in the end, nobody's going to care probably, because nobody writes anymore. And I was guilty of that too, man. I tell you, once I went to college, I was typing on word processors and computer keyboards. I quit writing for a long time. Mark and I used to exchange some letters when he was in college. The first time when I was working on airplanes, we went through a spell where we were exchanging some letters and writing stories and that sort of thing. And or at least I was. I mean, he was feeding me information. I can write fine with my left hand, Rhonda, if you have a mirror handy. So what are you saying, Tina, that your writing is backwards or that it's dyslexic? I was supposed to be left-handed, but I had one of these teachers. I got you. I can write neatly with my left hand, but it takes forever. I tell you what, I didn't appreciate just how hard it was on kids who were left-handed when they were teaching them to write by right-handed teachers who didn't understand either, I don't think, of what it took to write. I mean, and I thought about it, and I watched some co-workers write, and I asked them questions and learned, and I finally realized that, you know, you have to almost have to literally write backwards, because they, of course, teach us to tilt our letters, you know, left to right as we go across the page. Well, if you're left-handed, that means your hand is dragging through the ink and dragging through the words, and it's not natural. That's not the, you know, we don't teach to write the other way. And if you did, you'd need to start on the other side of the paper. It's just a really complicated thing. And I appreciate people who know how to write well left-handed, and it's hard. It really is. I don't know what in the world could be created. Maybe writing in a mirror would be the answer if you could do that. And of course you can't do that. So it's a whole different set of problems, though, that's for sure. So if you write left-handed and you had a hard time with it, or you struggled with it, or your teachers didn't know how to teach it, I sympathize or empathize. It's hard. They're just now starting to be tutorials on for left-handed crocheters. Huh, that's interesting. That too would be really different. Rhonda says, I ended up ambidextrous, so I can't be too mad. Well, and you do everything, Rhonda, with both hands? Because I can do some things with my left hand okay. And I used to be able to switch hit, and I could do other things with my left hand. But I can't write left-handed, or you can't read it if I do. But I've never practiced it. You know, maybe I could learn, but being ambidextrous really can have its benefits. I know if you're an airplane mechanic, it's good to have a left hand that works, because you can't always get both hands or your right hand in a hole that needs to have something done. You know, Tina, it probably is. There's probably more truth than that than not. Somebody probably finally figured out that, because I think there are more left-handed writers than people these days. I'm not sure if that's true. Seems like it to me, but you know, my God, talk about discriminated. I mean, I've known people that literally had their hands beaten with a ruler because they were left-handed naturally, but their fathers or their mothers or their teachers, by God, were not going to have it. They were not going to have a left-handed child. My wife's brothers was that way till he finally, you know, it was like, Bill, stop. He can't help it. He's left-handed. He didn't. And it was partly because he didn't know how to help him. I think there's a frustration. Right-handed people, especially when you live in a right-handed society, or hell, all of us, civilization in general, you know, you don't, left-handers were something of I don't say oddity, but certainly unique in comparison. I don't know I'd like to know what the percentages are of left-handed writers today versus, or, you know, lefties versus righties today from, say, 100 years ago. I'd like to know. But Tina, you may very well be on to something. It's hard thing. I've watched and I've talked to people who have learned to write left-handed, but I used to work with a lady. I watched her write one day, and it actually was painful for me to watch. And so I had to ask her about it. how did you arrive at that style and what happened? And she was left-handed. And when she would write, she would literally bend her hand completely around and over on the paper and write in such a manner that I don't know how she did it. I throw more accurately left, but right has power. That's interesting. I just can't hit the barn with my right. Well, I can throw with both, and I can actually hit some things with my left, but in my case, the power, if you will, is all in the right hand. Same for me. I can hit the broadside of a barn 10 feet away with a softball. Can't hit the barn. A lot of lefties write that way. Yeah, that's how. Oh, Chuck's left-handed too, Tina. I bet he's got stories about that then. Because he's from, our generation was even worse than today. I think it may be. And if you're not writing cursive and learning to do that, but even learning to print left-handed has got to be hard just because of the way we write. We write left to right on the paper, and for a lefty, that's tough. I think the curved arm when writing is more so you can see what you're doing. That could be. That makes sense. And Rhonda, because I've tried to hold the pen and imagine writing left-handed, and that's one thing that definitely is a problem. You can't see your letters as you move forward. Your hand tends to cover them. I keep asking him because he went to Catholic school too. Oh Lord, rulers to the knuckles. So, Rhonda, can you write with both hands? And which hand do you use predominantly then to write with when you write? The nuns tried to make me right-handed. Yeah, that's what I mean. I knew teachers who did that. I can remember it, and of course, when I was a kid, I didn't realize just what a issue that was. But it's like I said, when Brenda's brother Mark came along, not our Mark, her dad literally would take a spoon away from him and give it to make him hold it in his right hand and learn to eat with it, because he did not want a left-handed son. Again, maybe because when you're right-handed, you don't know how to teach a left-hander to do things. I don't know, but it was a big deal in their house. And finally, Brenda's mom said, "Bill, you can't. He's left-handed. You can't help it. You can't help it. You're born with it. Like other things, people don't have a choice over. Born that way. Neat with my left, but so slow. Messy with the right, but fast. I use the right more because I don't have patience to get faster with my left." Well, I understand that. And again, let's face it, Rhonda, you live, when it comes to writing, you live in a right-handed world. So I can see why a lot of left-handers might have wanted to do that and maybe if they were young, maybe that's the one skill that they should have been taught to do right-handed. I don't know. And I'm not saying that because I think they should. It's just that writing the way we write, again, from left to right, is difficult to do with your left hand. I'm not saying it can't be done, just saying it's harder. Whereas with the right, you can see the words that you said, you pointed out, you can see what you're doing better. So I don't know. I'm certainly not saying we should make left-handed people right-handed. I disagree with that totally. But again, writing is, as we know it in our society, is set up to go left to right. And that's hard to do if you're left-handed. That's what my second grade teacher did. Took everything out of my left and scolded me. Yeah, that was the norm. I mean, that's what people did. except I prefer to be different. So I want to do it with my left, but my impatience always wins out. Well, that's interesting. But I could see, I didn't see, for a long time, I did not understand, literally. But as I got older and I worked with more and more people that were left-handed, and I finally started asking questions about it, and in an honest and sincere way, and I started hearing all those horror stories about how they were taught or tried to be taught, and then I actually sat down with her, that lady at work, and we talked about it a couple of times, and I realized the difficulties and the mechanics of the whole thing. I don't know, maybe that's a topic. But then again, we've discussed it now, so maybe nobody wants to. But there are a lot of things built for right-handed people, that's for sure. The small detour, but it's the same subject. In the early days of motorcycles in this country, the two major brands finally filtered, or there were over 100 brands of motorcycles built in the United States in the 1910s and the teens and 20s, and they eventually filtered down to two: the Indian Motorcycle Company and the Harley Davidson Motor Company. And one of the things they did, the Indian side did, to be different, because they did this literally to be different, was they put the throttle in your left hand, and they moved things to different positions. So if you're right-handed, the natural way for me to ride is the throttle's on my right, clutch is over here, brakes up here, foot brakes on the right, gears are on the right, left. Well, Indian switched the throttle and stuff to this hand. And I cannot imagine how hard it was at that time to switch over from the right to the left. But that was their idea in marketing. They figured if you learned to do it with your left, you'd always want to ride their motorcycles. And if you were a right-handed strictly guy, you probably bought a Harley. That's kind of what it amounted to. Now, eventually, they're all the same now. That's pretty much standardized. Everything's the same way, even European and Japanese, American. The shifters on the left foot, the brakes on the right foot, the clutches on the left hand, the front brakes on the right hand, throttles in the right hand. But back in those days, they shifted, and I don't know what made them think. I think that would have been hard for people, again, born in a right-handed world, to learn to do left-handed. But I guess once you learn to do it, it wasn't that hard. I don't know. Except I prefer to be, and as you say that, I can hear a motorcycle go by. Powers, Rhonda. Just remember that. I brought that image and that sound to your ears. And if you believe that, let me talk about some land I need to sell. Anyway, guys, I guess I better let everybody go. I know I'm probably going to watch a little bit of football. Hockey starts back today after the Christmas break. And my Predators are finally starting to pick back up. As of the other night, they'd won 10 out of their last 14 games. And 10 out of 14? Yeah, 10 out of 14. So that's a good thing. They've not had a streak like that in a couple of years. I hope they can maintain it. They're still not in the playoff picture, but they're getting close. They've gone all the way from the bottom of the list to, I think they're two or 3 points out of the Wildcat position, along with a couple other teams that are in about the same boat. But I haven't watched since the Thrashers left. That's been a couple of years then, Rhonda. I'm not sure when they left. But anyway, that starts back today. And I think Preds are actually going to be on a TV channel that I can watch today. So I'm hoping to get to see them play tonight. And there's some football. And I've got to check my schedule again for football, because I swear I thought University of Tennessee played tonight, but it must not be today. Or it's not on a TV channel that I can watch. That's possible. So anyway, everybody have a happy New Year. Be safe out there, whatever you decide to do on New Year's Eve. If you go out and have fun or have a party and drink, get a designated driver, get a cab, call Uber. 4 p.m. on CBS, 8 p.m. on Peacock for NFL. Okay, what about CBS or CBF or whatever they call college football today? I know there's bowl games and playoff games, I think, today. And hockey starts maybe all the games may be tonight, or maybe one or two this afternoon. But I plan on watching some. So bye, everybody. Bye, Tina. Bye, Chuck. Bye, Rhonda. Nico, if you're still in here, thanks for coming by. Come back again. Join us. And you can find my email, I think, on my YouTube site. If you ever have an idea, something you want to talk about in your neck of the woods in Arizona, send me something. Maybe we can do that. And always open for ideas. So anyway, everybody have a safe holiday season, and whatever you get into, I would tell you not to do anything I wouldn't do, but that might not be good advice either, because you can get in trouble that way. I probably I've done a lot of things you probably don't want to do. But anyway, everybody have a great rest of your week. I'll see whoever's here next Sunday. We'll start the new year off on some topic. We'll see where I'll get to between now and then. And but it'll be the first show of the first of 2026. So see you there. See you on the other side. Bye-bye.